Chapter 12:29. Damn it, who are you looking down on? Prince Xuanzhen roared and charged toward Lin Chen. Lin Chen connected to the system. System, upgrade my super chaos talent. Consumed 1 million mid-grade talent points to upgrade quasi-orange talent, super chaos, to orange grade. Host remaining, 1.02 million talent points. Low-grade orange talent, super chaos. Duration of chaos doubled, trigger probability doubled, and holy point, holy vein. Chaos effect added to the original 7 chaos effect. If the enemy falls into the holy point chaos effect, the enemy's connection with one or more holy points will be temporarily cut off. If the enemy is a ferocious beast, the connection with part of the holy vein will be cut off. Duration, 5 seconds. Lin Chen's eyes widened, and his aura swept across 3,000 feet, looking down on the world. With 4 orange-grade talents, I don't believe I can't kill you. Prince Xuanzhen's body spun, as if he had turned into a storm of dragon breath, and charged toward Lin Chen. Primordial heavenly hell aura. Dragon roars sounded, as if thousands of dragons were covering the sky. It was as if a calamity from the 18 levels of hell had descended. The storm of dragon breath, that was tens of thousands of feet long, came together like a storm. Everywhere it passed, light dimmed, and space was distorted into countless vortexes. Perfect grade special ability. The perfect grade special ability that Prince Xuanzhen personally performed was so powerful that it seemed like it was going to turn the entire existential plane upside down. Lin Chen smiled evilly and snapped his fingers. Super Chaos activate. Boom. A chaotic and violent energy emerged from Prince Xuanzhen's body out of nowhere. He instantly sensed that something was wrong. What is this? He shockingly discovered that his qi and blood were churning, and more than 200 million dragon veins had fallen into a strange state. They were actually twisted into a fried dough twist. Are the dragon veins in knots? What the hell is going on? The dragon veins were in chaos, and the power of the attack was reduced by 20%. Azure Dragon Sword. Lin Chen swung his tail, which turned into a sword and slashed down. Rip. This sword strike slashed apart a myriad of storms, and a sword mark suffused with azure blue waves was slashed out from within the raging and frenzied storms. It was extremely beautiful. Splat. Prince Xuanzhen's scales were even cut open, and blood gushed out. Bang, bang, bang. The gigantic dragon's body seemed to be drunk as it stumbled and crashed into the mountains and earth veins in the plain. It couldn't even stand properly. His consciousness had also become somewhat chaotic. Bloodline breakthrough. Azure Dragon Sword has reached perfect level. With Bloodline plus 15, its power has increased by 410%. It perfectly made up for the lack of cultivation. What kind of concept was a perfect god art with a 410% increase in power? It was equivalent to quadrupling the power of an orange tear technique. Even Lin Chen's God's Tears was only plus 13, with 240% of its power. What happened to this prince's wound? Why is the blood not stopping? When Crown Prince Xuanzhen hurriedly swallowed a saint-grade healing treasure, he was shocked to discover that his wounds were unable to heal. Rip. In the blink of an eye, an afterimage slashed over like a knife, and his fist was like a ferocious dragon shaking the sky. Bang. This punch landed right on Crown Prince Xuanzhen's wound. Primordial Dragon Tribe? You think the Primordial Dragon Tribe can humiliate others as you wish? Then I'll humiliate you right now. Lin Chen grinned evilly, and the evil aura belonging to the Dragon Tribe was also activated. Every punch exploded with the greatest power. Bang, bang, bang. The wind of the fists rained down on Crown Prince Xuanzhen, and the wound on his neck grew larger. The mysterious U-Prison Dragon was proficient in defense. Originally, Crown Prince Xuanzhen's wound wasn't too serious, but after being beaten up by Lin Chen and adding oil to the fire, coupled with the effect of extinction, the injury instantly snowballed. Roar. In bang bang, I'll *CK your ancestors. Crown Prince Xuanzhen's claw slashed down, and the dragon light burst out. Lin Chen's spiritual perception predicted it in advance and took a step back to dodge. The dragon vein energy surged and crazily poured into the water-type odd crystal. Lin Chen raised his hands. Boom! The endless water-type energy was like a raging sea, covering the entire plain. The entire plain turned into a vast ocean, and the waves swallowed the mountains and rivers. The sky was filled with rolling waves that covered the stars. What? At this moment, everyone at the Myriad Dragon venue was moved. Using 1 billion dragon veins to use such a magical power, this wasn't a realm that a perfect grade could achieve. So what if you're the crown prince of the primordial dragon race? I'll slaughter you today. Lin Chen's eyes were filled with ferocious and domineering fighting spirit. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless chains, swords, and spears rose from the sea and surrounded Crown Prince Xuanzhen's dragon body. Roar. Damn it, this trash from the green dragon race wants to take my life? With just you? Crown Prince Xuanzhen grimaced in anger. From the green dragon race to the first round, the second round, and even now that his strength had skyrocketed, he couldn't take this kid down. If they were both strong enemies from the primordial dragon race, Crown Prince Xuanzhen would just lower his stance and admit defeat. There was still a long way to go, so why worry about the opportunity? But facing this Bang Bang, who kept humiliating his pride again and again, he couldn't take it lying down. He wouldn't give up if he didn't fight to the death today. Crown Prince Xuanzhen opened his dragon mouth, and the brilliance of the earth odd crystal circulated all over his body. The brilliance was like clouds, and thousands of dragon lights condensed in his mouth. Crown Prince Xuanzhen didn't defend against the countless attacks in the water prison and risked his life to attack Lin Chen. Supreme Mystic Light. Crown Prince Xuanzhen's dragon mouth burst forth with a divine light and shot straight at Lin Chen in the sky. The rainbow light crossed the sky, and everywhere it passed, life was extinguished, the tides dried up, the mountains and rivers quietly turned into dust, the blue sky dimmed, and space disintegrated. It was as if everything shone on by this beam of light was disintegrated and annihilated from the inside out. It quickly withered, and even space was nibbled into fragments. Supreme Mystic Light, the Crown Prince has even inherited this magical power. This is a killing move infinitely close to a transcendent grade magical power. The Dragon Elder was shocked, and all the experts' attention was focused on the battle between the two. The rainbow light came extremely quickly and instantly shone on Lin Chen, and he didn't even have a chance to dodge. A green light flashed and dissipated along with the Supreme Mystic Light. Everyone focused their eyes and saw that the new Azure Dragon King's clothes were slowly torn, and the dragon scale patterns on his shoulder left a burn mark. However, he wasn't too injured. All the dragon race experts were dumbfounded. What was going on? How could he block it completely? Only the mighty figures of the dragon race were shocked and shocked. They had seen an incredible scene. What kind of monster are you? Crown Prince Xuanzhen trembled in fear and was dumbfounded. Xuanzhen, surrender! A dragon race mighty figure's voice suddenly exploded in Crown Prince Xuanzhen's ears. Is this your dying counterattack? Then it's my turn. Lin Chen grinned evilly. His 5 fingers rotated slightly, and he clenched his fist tightly. Boom! His water heavenly prison suddenly tightened, and all the water energy in the heavenly prison tightly restrained Crown Prince Xuanzhen. Chi-chi! Pa! Crack crack! Dragon blood splattered, and dragon scales cracked. His flesh was distorted, and his dragon bones were broken. Crown Prince Xuanzhen's dragon body was squeezed into a ball by the water prison. No matter what attack he launched, he couldn't break out of the prison and was almost squeezed into meat paste. I surrender. Crown Prince Xuanzhen finally smelled the fear of death. Just as he was about to surrender, whoosh! Consumed 6,000 rune energy, activated level 7 slowing rune. A grayish-white talisman appeared out of thin air at the location of his dragon head, causing a small space to slow down. His throat and spirit power froze, and he couldn't even shout the word surrender. Lin Chun clenched his fist tightly. Bang, bang, bang. His flesh and blood exploded, and Crown Prince Xuanzhen's huge dragon body was crushed, twisted, and exploded. The corners of the dragon race experts' mouths twitched. Dead? The descendant of the future primordial dragon king was crushed. The moment Crown Prince Xuanzhen died, rainbow light shot into the sky, and a 5-light supreme treasure chest dropped. Chapter 1230. Sigh. This guy is really ruthless. The mighty figure of the dragon race, who sent a voice transmission to Prince Xuanzhen, sighed deeply. He wanted to save Prince Xuanzhen so that the dragon race would owe him a favor. However, according to the rules, no one was allowed to enter the battle dimension before the contestants surrendered. Obviously, Prince Xuanzhen had enough time to surrender, but he didn't even wail before he died. Obviously, it was Ing Bang Bang's doing. The atmosphere in the 10,000 Dragon Arena was particularly strange and silent. Prince Xuanzhen died, and when he counterattacked before he died, he didn't even cause any substantial damage to Ing Bang Bang. He was still challenging someone of a higher level. Was the gap between the two sides so big? However, what drove countless experts crazy was that this Ing Bang Bang was so strong that it didn't make any sense. You knew he was strong, but you couldn't tell what was so strong about him. With such an obvious gap in cultivation, he could still crush Prince Xuanzhen. Prince Xuanzhen is dead? A new Dragon King has appeared. This Ing Bang Bang will become the most powerful challenger of the King of 10,000 Dragons from now on. The power of his last bloodline power is close to the extraordinary level. He hasn't used all his strength yet. As long as he uses all his dragon bloodlines to activate it, it will definitely be a destructive extraordinary level power. When the mighty figures of the dragon race were shocked, some of the dragon race's experts felt their scalps tingle. An extraordinary level power. It was a bloodline power that was close to the top of the dragon race. Wasn't every extraordinary level power in the hands of the primordial dragon king? This guy had a transcendent level power at such a young age. He had a promising future. However, when Chen Xie spoke, another wave rose before the first wave subsided. An extraordinary level power is only one of the reasons. This guy has a double 8th grade bloodline. He blocked Prince Xuanzhen's bloodline power, which was the perfect bloodline power of the ancient sky-raising dragon. Chen Xie looked straight at the green dragon race and the others. As expected, the green dragon race was able to achieve such an unprecedented transformation not only because of the divine dragon relic but also because of Ing Bang Bang's intervention. What? Double 8th grade bloodline? Motherf ****, did this old man hear wrongly? The primordial Skyraiser dragon, the ancestral dragon of the Azure Dragon tribe. This kid actually obtained the legacies of the extreme Hellwater Divine Dragon and the primordial Skyraiser dragon? Is the Azure Dragon tribe really going to win the championship? This guy killed Crown Prince Xuanzhen. Isn't he afraid that the Dragon King will find trouble with the Green Dragon tribe? Bullshit. With the Azure Dragon tribe's current reputation and the potential of this Ing Bang Bang, even the higher-ups will think highly of them. Who would dare to trip them up? All sorts of shocked and gasping sounds echoed in the myriad dragon assembly hall. The many dragon crown princes and princesses who had yet to participate in the battle instantly felt as though a huge mountain was pressing down on their heads. Crown Prince Xuanzhen's strength was at least in the top 5 or even top 3 of the primordial dragon clan. If even he had lost his life, what about the others? Perhaps only those two monsters can deal with him. The quick-witted girl in green stuck out her tongue and looked at Ji Xiaochuan and Yang Anren with her charming eyes. Inside the battle plane. Obtained 600 million high-grade blood, 200 million battle chi essence, 20,000 rune energy, 20,000 set essence, 20,000 talent points, 80,000 strengthening points, 12,000 heaven path points, 10,000 high-grade earth energy, 40,000 spiritual power, 20,000 high-grade earth energy. Lin Chen's attributes skyrocketed. The high-grade blood went to the sacred dragon, and the dragon veins opened one after another, increasing by tens of thousands. In the end, the number of dragon veins opened reached 1 billion, and his pure strength soared to 11 billion dragon power. Killing Crown Prince Xuanzhen gave him more attribute points than an ordinary fourth heaven sage. Especially the earth energy. Crown Prince Xuanzhen refined 7 earth energy crystals and crushed them, giving Lin Chen 460,000 points of earth energy. Inside Qing Shui's plant pouch, all the clones and Lin Chen's main body, the Saint acupoints in Tai Yi space throbbed slightly due to the large amount of attribute points, and their power increased. Lin Chen had a premonition that as long as he released the sealed acupoint state, his acupoints would definitely explode. His accumulation over the past few months was too strong. If the experts in the outside world knew about this, their jaws would probably drop. They had only heard of battle emperors exploding when they became saints, but they had never heard of first heaven sage breaking through to second heaven. After collecting the attribute light balls, Lin Chen reached out to touch the dazzling 5-light supreme treasure chest. Opened 5-light supreme treasure chest. Obtained golden battle god set related item. Ultimate right leg armor blueprint. Lin Chen was stunned. It was actually a blueprint for the golden battle god set? This thing could actually be made? Interesting, at least there's a sign. I want the blueprint too. Lin Chen was ecstatic and entered the blueprint into the system. However, the next moment, Lin Chen was so angry that he started fighting with the system. Golden Battle God Armor Blueprint. Materials required. 999 pieces of second-grade sacred artifacts and above, 2 million heaven path points, 2 million set essence, 5 cubic meters of metal-type top-grade sacred ores. Note: metal-type sacred ores must not be lower than 9th-grade sacred ores. Damn it, why don't you go rob a bank? 999 pieces of second-grade sacred artifacts. Do you think I'm a wholesale seller of sacred artifacts? This was the first time Lin Chen wanted to fight with the system. Was it trying to trick him? Lin Chen thought about how the ancient god set's components had personally confirmed that this item was comparable to a divine artifact. Only then did he feel slightly better. In any case, it was a killing weapon comparable to a divine artifact. It couldn't be helped that it was more expensive. With a wave of his hand, Lin Chen put away Crown Prince Xuanzhen's dragon body and dragon core. When Lin Chen left and returned to the 10,000 dragon meeting ground, the experts of the dragon tribe were looking at him differently. No one dared to underestimate this new king, let alone the Azure Dragon race. In fact, even the dragon race experts couldn't see through Lin Chen's foundation. Just a double 8th grade bloodline wouldn't have been able to escape unscathed in the battle just now. In other words, this kid was hiding an even more terrifying trump card. Yang Anren opened her beautiful eyes. She, who was at the top, finally revealed a trace of battle intent as she stared at Lin Chen. The two of them looked at each other and Lin Chen winked at her and whistled. Those who didn't know would think that the two of them were flirting. At this moment, a thought transmitted to Lin Chen. New Azure Dragon King, how about we make a deal? I want to buy Crown Prince Xuanzhen's dragon core and dragon body. It was a dragon race expert. Oh. Lin Chen was interested, but then he realized that the dragon body had been absorbed by the Bang Bang and was no longer complete. If he took it out now, he might expose something. Dragon race expert, I definitely can't return the dragon body to you. Only the dragon core is left. If you want it, you can exchange it with 20 low-grade odd crystals. Lin Chen sent a mocking voice transmission. That mighty figure was stunned. This 20 odd crystals is impossible. It's fine if there's still the dragon body. How about this, 5 odd crystals? As long as it's not a blood-type odd crystal, you can choose any attribute. How about that? Lin Chen raised his eyebrows. To think that this powerful being really wanted it. He was just casually offering a price. Lin Chen didn't know that there was no lack of forbidden techniques in the ancient dragon race that could change one's fate. As long as the dragon core wasn't broken, the shattered spiritual consciousness could rebuild the dragon body. If the dragon body was intact, the bloodline could even recover to 70 to 80% of its peak. Chapter 12:31. How about this, 8 no less? I might as well use these dragon cores to cook. Lin Feng pretended to be in a difficult position. Cook? The corners of the dragon race's mouth twitched, and he said seriously, 7, that's my limit. Deal. While the other dragons were fighting in full swing, Lin Chen and a mighty figure of the dragon race completed an earth-shattering transaction. That dragon race's mighty figure wanted to befriend the Xian Yu prison dragon race and paid a huge price to buy Prince Xianzhen's dragon core. A low-grade odd crystal was worth at least 400 million silver Saint Origin coins, which was worth 40,000 gold Saint Origin coins. 7 crystals in one go was equivalent to at least 280,000 gold Saint Origin coins. Only a dragon race's mighty figure had the ability to choose any attribute. The primordial dragon race's Prince Xianzhen's sacred beast core was precious and could be used to refine a 6th-grade sacred pill. But odd crystals were even more precious. To Lin Chen, there was almost no limit to how many odd crystals he could absorb. The more the better. Lin Chen chose 2 light-type odd crystals, 1 wood-type, 2 wind-type, and 2 dark-type odd crystals to complete the 9 attribute. But Lin Chen didn't refine them now. His sacred acupoint was in the sealed acupoint state and could only refine these odd crystals after he came out of seclusion. Although the rest of the top 16 battles were dazzling, they didn't reverse the situation like Lin Chen did. On the other hand, Ji Xiaochuan and Yang Anren continued to crush their opponents, causing quite an uproar. Their opponents were the Wind Sacred Winged Dragon Prince and the Thunder Dragon Prince. After entering the ancestral dragon tomb and tempering their bodies with dragon qi, they broke through to 10 billion dragon power and were second only to Prince Xianzhen and the others, but they were still crushed. In 2 days, the top 8 were decided. Lin Chen's top 8 opponent was the Yin-Yang Creation Dragon Princess, Su Meng the eccentric girl in green. Inside the venue, Su Meng was like a graceful butterfly, floating to the green dragon race's position and came to Lin Chen. I choose to forfeit, Green Dragon King. You don't have any objections, right? Su Meng smiled at Lin Chen. Lin Chen was a little surprised. You're not going to try? As far as he knew, the princesses and princes of the primordial dragon clan were all unruly and arrogant. Their arrogance was comparable to the monsters on the monster ranking. I don't want to end up like Crown Prince Xuanzhen and get crushed by you so violently. Su Meng stuck out her tongue. Lin Chen felt that it was inappropriate for children. She sat down next to Lin Chen as if she was familiar with him. She swung her snow-white legs and smiled with curved eyebrows. A young female elder of the Azure Dragon clan pushed Mu Tianqing to the left of Lin Chen. The latter's ears turned red. The 2 beauties, one on the left and one on the right, made everyone envious. This caused some of the primordial dragon race princes to gnash their teeth in jealousy. The naming Bang Bang is definitely not your real name. The young girl's bright and beautiful eyes flowed with a trace of craftiness as she stared straight at Lin Chen. She softly whispered and transmitted her voice to Lin Chen, Great King Azure Dragon, how about telling me your true name? She was dreamy and blurred, like a butterfly under the sun. Her exquisite figure had a dreamy charm, like a dream lover in the hearts of men. Well, actually, my real name is Zhang Taishui, and my nickname is Shirliji. My nickname is Black Dragon in the Waves. Lin Chen laughed. Su Meng kept asking Lin Chen questions, but he kept talking. In the top 8, Lin Chen unexpectedly won without a fight because of the beauty's forfeiture, and advanced to the top 4. In the end, Crown Prince Wan Hua fought against the Dark Heaven Dragon clan in the top 8, and an unbelievable scene played out. After being trampled by Yang Anren for dozens of rounds, Crown Prince Wan Hua was defeated. When he was sent back to the arena, an extremely melodramatic scene played out. Princess Anren, your strength has deeply convinced this Crown Prince. I, Crown Prince Wan Hua, am willing to treat you as my queen. Please marry my clan. Crown Prince Wan Hua knelt on one knee, and his unruly appearance was filled with admiration as he looked at Yang Anren. Many experts were dumbfounded. Lin Chen laughed. This Crown Prince's hobby was a bit strange. Lin Chuan rubbed his chin and said, so this Crown Prince Wan Hua has also become a bootlicker? Su Meng and Mu Tianqing asked curiously at the same time, what's a bootlicker? Lin Chen said seriously, a bootlicker is willing to be a cow or a horse for the other party, as long as they give him grass. The two girls said, oh, something was wrong. When the top 4 were selected, it was finally the end. When the lots were drawn, the Green Dragon clan's opponent was the Shadow Burial Phantom Dragon clan. Lin Chen against Ji Xiaochuan. The biggest dark horse of this dragon gathering was against a monster on the same level as Yang Anren. In the battle plane, Lin Chen and Ji Xiaochuan were facing each other. Ji Xiaochuan had an evil look on his face as he licked his lips. You're no match for me. Are you going to forfeit or fight me head-on? This Crown Prince is proficient in the Spirit Tao. If you're injured, there might be some permanent scars that can't be healed. Forfeit? Lin Chen raised his eyebrows slightly. Didn't you see how hard I hammered Crown Prince Xianzhen's head just now? If you have time to talk nonsense, why don't you use a few more moves? Interesting. Since my bloodline skyrocketed, I haven't really used my full strength. I wanted to start with Yang Anren, but I'll kill you first. Rumble. Ji Xiaochuan decisively revealed his dragon form. Endless dragon qi intertwined, and an abyssal dragon flew out from hell with countless lives buried there. Its body was pitch black, and its dragon scales looked like they were made of molten iron. It was bold and majestic. Azure Dragon King, this Crown Prince knows that your Spirit Tao attainments are extraordinary. Use your full strength. The abyssal dragon opened its mouth, and a terrifying dragon roar came like a hurricane, mixed with a Spirit Tao fluctuation that could penetrate everything. 13 billion dragon power points? Ji Xiaochuan is actually this strong? His spirit has already reached the mid-stage of the Saint Rudiment stage. A dragon race powerhouse exclaimed with a solemn expression. This roar shatters the galaxy was a double explosion of Spirit Tao and pure strength. Myriad Dragon Breaking Spear. Lin Chen grabbed with one hand, and the azure spear danced like a dragon, piercing through the dragon roar repeatedly. The sound waves were torn apart along with the spatial crystal walls. Ji Xiaochuan's Spirit Tao was also devoured by a deep and vast Spirit Tao fluctuation. What? He's unharmed? While Ji Xiaochuan was stunned, Lin Chen held the dragon spear with one hand, and thousands of spear shadows shot out like torrential rain. Each strike contained more than 10 billion dragon power points, and Ji Xiaochuan attacked with his dragon tail. Bang! The collision of the dragon's spear and dragon tail caused thousands of waves of air, shattering the spatial crystal walls. One man and one dragon clashed fiercely, as if they had returned to the primordial era. Every collision shattered the spatial crystal walls, scattering countless Spirit Tao fragments. The Burial Shadow Mirage Dragon was the origin of all spiritual-type dragons. Their bloodline talent was to cultivate the Tao of spiritual type. This talent made them extremely bloodthirsty, even killing their own kind. If an expert of the same level were to fight him, their will would be shaken by his spirit and baleful aura, and they would be scared before the battle even started. Blood Illusion Sky Glass Mirror. Ji Shaochuan controlled thousands upon thousands of illusory dragon shadow to attack Lin Chen's body. Chapter 1232. Every single illusory dragon shadow was a mental attack. Such a torrential rain of mental attacks was enough to destroy the will of most fourth heaven true saints. Azure Dragon Sword. Lin Chen's dragon tail turned into a sword as he sliced apart the illusory dragon shadow. The mental attacks that could disrupt a fourth heaven true saint's mental attacks couldn't penetrate Lin Chen's defenses at all. Every time they got close to him, an even stronger mental power would transform into a vast starry sky and deflect the mental attacks. Competing in mental power? The other members of the dragon race might be a little wary, but this was Lin Chen's forte. How is this possible? This crown prince's bloodline ability is actually useless against this fellow? The more Ji Shaochuan fought, the more shocked he became. He had used 2 types of perfect grade mental attacks, but they couldn't shake Huang Xiaolong's will to battle. Perfect grade mental attacks were equivalent to the human race's orange rank divine art. Ji Shaochuan's mental attacks were equivalent to the human race's orange rank divine arts. They should be much harder to deal with than ordinary attacks. Why was Huang Xiaolong able to deal with them so easily? His mental power is on the same level as mine. Even if he's slightly stronger than me, it's impossible for him to be completely immune to my mental attacks. Ji Shaochuan was running out of tricks in the battle, and the experts of the various races felt that something was amiss. He's actually evenly matched with Ji Shaochuan? Evenly matched my ass. He hasn't even transformed into a dragon yet. This brat is too good at hiding his strength. Ji Shaochuan's mental attacks are completely useless against him. He's forcing Ji Shaochuan to use pure strength to fight against him. Jing Bangbang's mental power is actually so terrifying? In the previous battle, Lin Chen hadn't relied on his mental power to fight. He was afraid that the experts would notice something was amiss. Even though they were both at the mid-stage of the Saint Realm, his mental power was far superior to Ji Shaochuan's. Lin Chen shattered all of Ji Shaochuan's mental attacks and used the Genesis Holy Scripture to disperse the mental attack. He was able to gain a firm foothold. In order to avoid the dragon race's experts from probing, Lin Chen's mental power only attacked and didn't defend at all. RIP. After more than 100 rounds, Lin Chen was the first to expose a flaw in Ji Shaochuan's defense. The azure dragon sword slashed open his dragon scales. As the dragon blood gushed out, Lin Chen smiled and said, "You've persisted for so long. You can be considered a good fighter." Smack! Lin Chen snapped his fingers and activated his super chaos talent. Buzz buzz buzz! Ji Shaochuan's body throbbed. His dragon meridians, qi and blood, tendons and bones, and even his consciousness, were all in a state of extreme chaos. What kind of technique is this? Could it be his spiritual type divine art? What kind of ability is this to be able to control this prince's dragon vein? Ji Shaochuan was shocked and horrified. He finally understood one of the reasons why Prince Xuanzhen lost. Why did his aura suddenly become unstable when his attack was at its strongest? So it was because of this move. In the next moment, the vast power of the dragon vein poured into the water-type odd crystal. Lin Chen clenched his fist and the extraordinary god art, extreme prison heavenly prison suddenly descended on the entire plane. Boom, 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 boom. Endless waves drowned Ji Shaochuan and constructed the extreme prison heavenly prison. Countless phantom sea dragons galloped on the surface of the sea, and there were even chains binding Ji Shaochuan's body. Lin Chen's 1 billion dragon meridians were almost completely drained, and then he frantically refined a large amount of silver sacred origin coins to replenish the consumption. The last time he fought against Prince Xuanzhen, Lin Chen activated the Extreme Prison Heavenly Prison and only used 500 million dragon meridians to crush him. Only those with more than 1 billion dragon veins could unleash the true power of this extraordinary divine ability. The entire plane was instantly reduced to an endless raging sea, firmly imprisoning Ji Shaochuan within. Ka, ka, ka. The entire plane was on the verge of collapse, and the space crystal wall was about to collapse. All the dragon race mighty figures suddenly stood up with horrified expressions. "Oh my God! This little guy can actually destroy the entire battle plane. This is the power of his extraordinary god art. It's too terrifying. Even the extraordinary god art I inherited back then is far inferior to this kid." Lin Chen activated the Extreme Prison Heavenly Prison with 1 billion dragon meridians, and the plus 15 bloodline made the bloodline god art more than 4 times stronger. A perfect god art was comparable to an ordinary low-grade orange-grade technique. What about an extraordinary god art? An extraordinary god art that could increase the power by 4 times? How monstrous would that be? Ji Shaochuan trembled in fear. If his spiritual attack was effective on this prince, he could still fight. But how could he fight? He completely ignored his spiritual attack and had such a heaven-defying bloodline god art. Boom! The plane was overturned and compressed into a ball, and Ji Shaochuan's spiritual consciousness suddenly spread out. Surrender! Surrender! He was very smart. He split his spiritual power into many parts and teleported out, unlike Prince Xuanzhen, who only realized at the last moment that he wanted to surrender and was already locked down by Lin Chen. Rip! Space cracked, and 2 dragon race mighty figures instantly entered the battle plane and interfered with the outcome of the battle to protect Ji Shaochuan. "Alright, King of the Green Dragon race, you've won." Lin Chen only retracted his god art after the mighty figures made the announcement. Even though his face was pale, his eyes were filled with fighting spirit. A complete extraordinary god art is indeed monstrous. With my bloodline strengthening, my holy dragon has already grasped a whole new level of strength. Lin Chen was confident that if he met the group of 4th Heaven True Saints in the sacred Burial Mountain range again, he wouldn't need to rely on the War God's gauntlet anymore. He could rely on his own body and holy dragon to fight against them. This was an overwhelming strength. Lin Chen, who hadn't even reached the 2nd Heaven True Saint realm, already had the strength to fight against 4th Heaven True Saints. If it's you, you might be able to fight against that monster. She obtained a huge fortuitous encounter in the giant whale plain. Don't give her a chance at the start, Ji Shaochuan transmitted his voice to Lin Chen. The monster he was referring to was Yang Anren. Ji Shaochuan wasn't a weakling. In fact, he was stronger than Crown Prince Xuanzhen. However, he was helpless against Lin Chen. His spiritual type ability was completely suppressed. Even if he had risked his life to fight back, he might have been able to injure Lin Chen. However, he would have died under that terrifying god art. Thank you for the information. Lin Chen flicked his finger and sent a few long qingguo to Ji Shaochuan. Lin Chen didn't have much of a grudge with Ji Shaochuan. Hence, he couldn't be bothered to kill him. Ji Shaochuan cupped his fists and turned to leave. With a wave of his dragon claw, Lin Chen collected all the attribute light balls Ji Shaochuan dropped. Most of them were spiritual type. When he returned to the 10,000 dragon arena, Yang Anren had also defeated his opponent. Their gazes met, and the smell of gunpowder before the finals filled the air. Lin Chen chuckled. "It seems like we can finish the battle in the first round," Yang Anren said calmly. "I hope you have more trump cards up your sleeve. Otherwise, this battle will be boring." Lin Chen said, "Don't worry. The most people will say about me is that I'm full of surprises. I guarantee you that I'll surprise you again and again." When the two of them returned to the arena, the experts of the various races looked at the azure dragon banner on the champion's seat with complicated emotions. Who would have thought that a team that wasn't even from the ancient dragon race would be able to kill their way out of the encirclement and shine brightly in the 10,000 Dragon Conference? No one could stop them as they stood in front of the dark sky dragon race. Chapter 12:33. The final round of the competition will begin in 3 days. Both parties, please get ready. The winner will become the king of myriad dragons. Lin Chen returned to his seat and continued to refine the silver Saint Origin coins in the peach blossom pouch to replenish the draconic vein he had consumed. With a thought, Lin Chen opened the system. Heavenly Tao Possession System version 7.0 host. Lin Chen. Cultivation. First Heaven True Saint Realm, 10 Saint Points. High Grade Essence, 398. 8 billion points limit. 6 billion Dragon Energy, Flesh Shell Awakening plus 100%. High Grade Vitality, 228. 9 billion points. High Grade Consciousness, 439 million points. Middle Saint Realm. High Grade Cultivation Technique Essence, 1 million points. High Grade Rune Energy, 225 million points. Mid-Grade Heaven's Path Points, 85 million points. Mid-Grade Talent Points, 84 million points. Set Essence, 950,000 points. Blank Attribute Points, 0 points. Strengthening Points, 97.9 million points. High-Grade Elemental Energy. Fire Element 1,600,000 points. Earth Element 1,940,000 points. Wood Element 1,360,000 points. Metal Element 1,770,000 points. Water Element 1,640,000 points. Lightning Element 1,550,000 points. Wind Element 1,410,000 points. Light Element 1,500,000 points. Darkness Element 1,620,000 points. Cultivation Technique Status Column, open. Bloodline Status Column, open. Life Awakening Column, open. Passive Talent Column. Dual Cultivation, Assault, Laceration. Quasi-Orange, Super Chaos, Orange. Extreme God Possession Fragment, 3/4. Active Talent Column, open. Sure Kill Skill Column, open. Unique Rune Column, open. Talent Combination Skill, open. Just like Lin Chen, Yang Anren hadn't even revealed her true form in the previous battle. Her strength was unfathomable. Lin Chen still needed more trump cards to deal with her. System, use all my strengthening points to strengthen all my bloodlines. While the Myriad Dragon Arena was in full swing, on the other side, in the sacred boundary, the Green Domain. The Green Domain Tower was so tall that one couldn't see its top. Its body was pitch black like a coiled black dragon. Every level of the tower was equivalent to a city that could accommodate tens of millions of people. From afar it looked like a true colossus that reached the heavens. At this time, the Realm Tower was packed with people. Those who could enter the Realm Tower were all saints. The saints of the 36 domains had gathered from all directions. Today was the registration day for the preliminary competition of the Genius List. The 10-year Sacred War was about to begin, and the situation had changed. An expert had appeared, a reclusive old monster had come out of seclusion, and a peerless monster had personally arrived. The Genius List had gathered, and the top 1,000 Saint Realm geniuses were all present. There were even 7th-rank aristocratic families and sects that came out to observe the preliminaries in person. The preliminaries were the first of its kind in history. They could challenge the monsters on the monster rankings. On the 9th floor of the Realm Tower, within a secret room sat an old man with a sage-like bearing. He flipped through the jade slip in his hand, and his dark green eyes flashed with traces of praise as he nodded from time to time. Yes, there are a lot of good seedlings this time. I just don't know if that young man, Lin Chen, will come. I really want to see him. Buzz. Space rippled as a black-robed figure descended and knelt on one knee. The black-robed man reported, "Elder Shen, we have an important guest." The old man was surprised. Could it be that this person was a 7th-rank giant? Who are you? If it's not something important, let Elaine deal with it. The old man was a little impatient. He didn't want to give face to a seventh-rank force. The black-robed man said again, "It's the Godly Flame Palace." Elder Shun's pupils trembled. The Godly Flame Palace. Elder Shun stood up and squinted his eyes. The black-robed man said respectfully, "The important guest is on the 8th floor, the Orchid Plain." "Yes, I'll go there." Elder Shun took a step forward and the stars moved. When he appeared again, the surroundings were filled with the sound of birds and the fragrance of flowers. This was the 8th floor of the Realm Tower. Those who could come here were all experts in the upper levels of the sacred boundary in terms of status, experience, and cultivation. At this moment, there were more than 100 powerful saints gathered here. Some were in charge of a region and had authority over billions of living beings. Some had unfathomable cultivation, and some had even stepped into that illusory and new realm. The young ones were the peerless monsters on the monster rankings. Every one of them was a living legend of the 36 domains of the sacred boundary. However, at this moment, all the experts on the 8th floor were staring at a waterfall in a valley, dumbfounded. Elder Shun teleported to the front of a waterfall, and then he was shocked. In the dense mist, there were 10 peerless beauties standing beside a snow-white figure. They were like stars surrounding the moon, setting off this stunning beauty. Her long dress was like a cloud and fluttering snow. In the mist, she looked ethereal like a fairy. The beauty's hair was adorned with pearls, and her hair was in a cloud bun. Her eyebrows were like the distant mountains in late autumn. Her brows were filled with deep longing, and her beautiful eyes were sparkling. Her temperament was elegant and otherworldly. The beauty's flawless waist was tied with a strand of red. It was as if everything in the world was overshadowed by her beauty. The mist flowed and surrounded the peerless beauty. Her flawless snow-white hands were folded in front of her waist. She was quiet, beautiful, refined, and peerless. She didn't need too many decorations. As long as she stood there, she would be the center of the world. She would make anyone sigh. How could there be such a person in the world? If there were fairies in the world, perhaps she would be the most beautiful one. Seeing Elder Shun arrive, the beauty bowed to greet him. "Greetings, Elder Shun of the Boundary Tower." Elder Shun came back to his senses and immediately cupped his fist. "Miss, you're too polite. May I ask why the Godly Flame Palace is looking for the Boundary Tower?" Elder Shun's status was terrifying. Even if a powerful figure from a 7th-rank family invited him, he might not necessarily accept. However, in front of the Godly Flame Palace, he couldn't put on airs. Not many people knew how powerful this sect was. However, in the long history, there was once a 6th-rank family that offended the Godly Flame Palace. In one night, the family, together with its branch family, was destroyed and disappeared in an instant. A Grade 6 organization was already the peak of the holy world. Whether or not a Grade 6 organization could nurture a monster on the monster rankings depended entirely on the Grade 6 organization. Destroying a Grade 6 organization was not something that could be accomplished just by suppressing the other party in terms of cultivation. It required a lot of energy. What kind of family was the Godly Flame Palace? No one knew. Even Elder Shun didn't know. The beauty said, "I want to be a candidate for the monster list and participate in the competition. I hope Elder Shun can help me." Elder Shun was stunned. He smiled pleasantly and said, "So that's what you want. It's a small matter. Why would I trouble someone like you to do such a small matter?" The monster list competition was definitely a grand event in the sacred boundary in the outside world. However, in front of the Godly Flame Palace, it was nothing. "It's not a small matter." The beauty shook her head. "Anything related to him is not a small matter." There was a hint of joy, longing, and anticipation in her tone. "Oh." Elder Shun was old and shrewd. He asked with a smile, "Who are you here for? Is there such a lucky young man in the world who can win your favor?" The beauty smiled faintly. She was peerless. "He's the most important person to me. His name is Lin Chun." Elder Shen was stunned. In the sacred burial mountain, a black-robed young man walked out slowly. His eyes were demonic and extraordinary. He was like a demon walking out of a graveyard, flowing with monstrous demonic intent. Chapter 12:34. A figure slowly walked out from behind the black-robed youth. Finally, I have obtained a decent body. The newcomer was a young man with a calm demeanor. However, when he thought of the person who had messed up the situation, a murderous aura erupted from his face. Boom! A boundless demonic prison appeared around the young man. Numerous 8-armed brute devils and 9-headed heavenly devils surrounded him. Demonic aura filled the sky on his left, while holy light shone from his right. Both demonic and human techniques coexisted? Lin Chen, this little bastard ruined my plan. If I don't sacrifice him, I won't be able to swallow this anger. The young man's face was twisted like a mad beast. The black-robed youth said calmly, "He will definitely participate in the preliminaries. We can intercept and kill him there. In any case, your body is more than enough, isn't it?" Hearing this, the young man's anger subsided. He licked his lips and looked creepy. Hee. I wonder if the preliminaries are comparable to when I participated in the preliminaries. In a palace, the young man held the last breath of a middle-aged man in one hand. His pair of golden pupils surged with 3,000 rays of sharpness, as if they could pierce through the void with a single glance. The young man asked coldly, "Where is he?" The middle-aged man struggled. I don't know, but if he is fine, he should be participating in the preliminaries." The middle-aged man tried to break free from the young man's grasp. His saint acupoints surged and shone brightly, but he realized that the young man was holding the entire space in his hand. His strength was so strong that it made one's hair stand on end. What is his strength? Expanded cavern realm? How can there be such a freak in the expanded cavern realm in this world? The middle-aged man's heart trembled. He was a fourth heaven saint with 37 acupoints, a late-stage expanded cavern realm cultivator. He was suppressed by the young man with a flip of his hand. "Oh, seems like you are not being honest." Crack! The young man twisted his hand and broke the middle-aged man's neck. "Lin Chen, the divine crimson 7 silk is not something a mortal like you can wield. Reserve meeting for the genius list? What kind of trash is that? I, Lin Xingchen, will destroy it with my sword." Boom! The young man transformed into a streak of sword light, traversing thousands of miles. This youth was none other than Lin Xingchen, who had personally infiltrated the sacred burial mountain range. The reserve meeting of the genius list was a gathering of all sorts of people. The great wilderness. A slender black-robed figure silently appeared. When he lowered his head to look at the demonic seal on his palm, he suddenly flashed and quietly disappeared. On the other side, at the Myriad Dragon Assembly Hall. The last round of the representative competition, the Azure Dragon Clan against the Dark Heavenly Dragon Clan. Gilbert Bang Bang vs. Yang Anren. Both parties please enter the battle plane. The winner will become the king of Myriad Dragons of this Myriad Dragons Assembly. You will have the qualifications to enter the 7th level of the Myriad Dragon Palace, and all the clansmen of your race will be baptized by the primordial dragon Qi once every 100 years. When the gray-clothed old woman made her announcement, 10,000 dragons surged. The final battle of the 10,000 Dragons Guild. The king of 10,000 dragons was a blessing to the entire race. Every time the king of 10,000 dragons was crowned, the vast majority of it was monopolized by the ancient dragon clan. Only 3 million years ago did a heaven-shaking genius emerge from the ancient dragon clan and win the king of 10,000 dragons. From then on, the honor of the king of 10,000 dragons never belonged to any other dragon clan besides the ancient dragon clan. Not to mention the ancient dragon clan. If the Azure Dragon Clan could accomplish this unprecedented feat, they would become the most dazzling clan in the history of the Dragon Clan. Lin Chun and Yang Anren entered the battle plane. Yang Anren was still wearing a short skirt today. Her black clothes were like the night sky, like a rose under the night sky. Her beauty hid a fatal and obscure killing intent. She smiled slightly, and her smile was so beautiful that it shook one's soul. "Ing bang bang, this time you." "Rumble." Lin Chun blasted out a palm, and the dragon vein was sucked dry, and the water shone brightly. Heaven and earth turned upside down, and the universe changed. The massive furious sea heavenly prison descended from the sky, engulfing the entire battle plane. All the experts in the myriad dragon assembly were dumbfounded. This kid didn't play according to the rules. He used a transcendent divine ability right off the bat? But it was far from that. Boom, boom, boom. Air waves surged, and the might shook the heavens and the earth. 10 grayish-white talismans, each 1,000 feet in size, appeared out of nowhere, erupting with an invincible aura that could seal all things. Sealing people, sealing ghosts, sealing demons, and suppressing dragons. Consumed 50,000 rune energy to activate the level 7 slowing rune. Lin Chen's body was burning with golden flames. This was a sign that he was burning gold Saint Origin coins to quickly replenish the dragon vein. Beauty of the dark sky dragon race, I'm very good at making things. If you can't take it, remember to surrender. As Lin Chun smiled flirtatiously, he clenched his fists, and the massive extreme hell heavenly prison quickly compressed, squeezing Yang Anren's petite body continuously. Her hot and sexy figure continued to appear, as if the weight of an infinite plane was pressing down on her. The terrifying pressure of the slowing rune made Yang Anren unable to move for a moment. Lin Chen's slowing rune was unprecedentedly powerful. Crack, crack, crack. The spatial crystal walls of the plane started to crack. Even though it had been reinforced by the mighty figures of the dragon race this time, it still couldn't stop the momentum of the battle. Yang Anren, who had always been arrogant and disdainful, finally had a change in expression. The power of a perfect divine art was roughly equivalent to Lin Chen's Moon Mirror God's divine art or Heavenly Sword Fury. A peak perfect divine art was comparable to God's Tear and True Dragon Dance. As for the extraordinary divine art, it was comparable to the human race's mid-orange grade cultivation technique. After being strengthened by Lin Chen, it might even have the power of a mid-orange grade cultivation technique. The extreme hell heavenly prison could be used to attack, defend, and exhaust. To Lin Chen, it was a heaven-defying technique. Bang, bang, bang. The extreme hell heavenly prison continued to crack and explode. Black draconic chi covered the sky and tore the void apart. Even though the extreme hell heavenly prison wasn't destroyed, it was heavily damaged. Even this can't trap her? This woman is a little troublesome. Lin Chun increased the speed at which he absorbed the gold Saint Origin coins, and the dragon vein was replenished rapidly. That sneak attack just now, coupled with the slowing rune, could crush an ordinary mid-4th heaven true saint. How could Yang Anren break a corner of the prison? Rumble! Draconic chi spread out for 3,000 li, and it was like a flood that pushed a corner of the extreme hell heavenly prison open. Yang Anren's black draconic chi covered her body, and blood flowed from her lips. Her hair was scattered, and she looked extremely charming. She laughed evilly. You really didn't disappoint me. Ing bang bang, don't stop. Ha 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 ha. Yang Anren stepped through the void, and layers of black draconic shadows appeared. Her speed was so fast that only a few people in the myriad dragon arena could see her clearly. Her slender arms transformed into black draconic scales, and she slammed them down on Lin Chen's head. Everlasting azure light. Lin Chun circulated the sky dragon bloodline in his body, and azure light burst out from his body. He used all his strength to defend himself, and at the same time, he swung his dragon tail and slashed out with the azure dragon sword. 5 streaks of draconic light slashed down, and the black draconic claw slashed down. Bang! Lin Chen's azure dragon sword was destroyed in a single strike. Draconic chi pierced through the azure dragon's sword and slammed into the everlasting azure light, shattering Lin Chen's perfect divine art defense. Pucci! Lin Chen retreated with blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, and the expressions of the dragon race experts changed. Yang Anren's dragon power has broken through to 20 billion? Chapter 1235. Lin Chen forced her to use her perfect mystique right from the start, which ignited Yang Anren's battle intent. The moment she entered battle mode, Yang Anren was like a battle maniac. Her previous image was completely gone as she chased after Lin Chen. This is impossible. The requirement to participate in the 10,000 Dragons Conference is 8 billion dragon power points. How did this girl's cultivation increase so much in just a few months? This girl hasn't even reached mid-stage rank 8 yet. Once she reaches mid-stage rank 8, won't she be able to turn the world upside down? While the dragon race mighty beings were shocked, Ji Xiaochuan said solemnly. As expected, she refined the giant whale's heart while using the dragon tomb to temper her body. Now, she can fight all of us primordial dragon race princes alone. Ji Xiaochuan's words were shocking. Su Meng Er's heart tightened as she stared at the battle dimension nervously. The difference is too big. How can we fight? 20 billion dragon power points was the same as a human's acupoint expansion when he tried to open the 31st Saint acupoint. This number was beyond common sense. Normal saints could expand their acupoints by 3 to 5 times. Monster-level geniuses could expand their acupoints by 6 to 10 times. The monster-level geniuses could expand their acupoints by at least 15 times. Yang Anren hadn't even broken through yet, but she was already much stronger than normal monster-level geniuses. The difference is too big. Hurry up and make that Ing Bang Bang surrender. Chen Xie was a bit anxious. There was no way to fight this kind of difference. Hey, don't be anxious. Let's watch. This kid seems to be getting more energetic the more he fights. Suddenly, the gray-robed old woman said in shock. Inside the battle dimension, the extreme hell heavenly prison followed Yang Anren like a shadow. Sometimes it would unleash dragon-like dragon breath, and sometimes it would sweep up blue waves to attack Yang Anren. Even so, Yang Anren was still suppressing Lin Chen throughout the battle. 10,000-year dragon breaking spear. Dark abyss devour. The dragon breath swallowed Lin Chen's azure light dragon spear in one gulp. Super chaos, slow rune. A super chaos triggered 3 times. Activating. Consume 10,000 rune energy to activate slow rune. When the grayish-white talisman descended, a portion of Yang Anren's dragon meridians fell into chaos. His chi and blood churned as if they were about to break out of his body uncontrollably. What a strange move. Did he use this move to defeat Crown Prince Xuanzhen and the others? If it was during the first stage of the 10,000 dragon gathering, it might have been useful, but now it's not even worth mentioning. Yang Anren suddenly shouted coldly, "Break!" The power of his bloodline suddenly soared. The ancient might of the primeval dragons filled Yang Anren's blood and broke the restraint of the runes of slowing down and the status of super chaos. Bang bang bang! Lin Chen was slightly surprised when his confusion status was completely broken. Mighty and regal dragon might erupted from the battle plane, spreading throughout the entire universe. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings in the myriad dragon assembly venue were instantly struck by a sense of fear and trepidation. This is the desolate era's dragon might. 9th grade bloodline. My god, this girl actually broke through the 9th grade bloodline. Ji Xiaochuan is only at the peak of the 8th rank, but she has already advanced to the 9th rank. The dragon clan experts felt their scalps go numb, and the mighty figure's eyes narrowed. There seems to be a fine line between the 8th and 9th grades, but the difference is actually like heaven and earth. Even among the desolate era dragons, she's probably at the top level. Jilling Bang Bang is about to lose. Lin Chen flapped his holy phoenix wings repeatedly and repeatedly used all kinds of trump cards, but Yang Anren blocked all of them. Dragon blood splattered everywhere. In less than 10 rounds of battle, Lin Chen's sacred dragon fell into a heavily injured state. Although Yang Anren was also injured, and because of the extinction wound, her injuries could not be healed, but she only suffered light injuries. In comparison, Lin Chen's flesh and blood were all over his body. His arms were full of cracks, and the dragon scales on the surface of his body were soaked with blood as if they were about to split open. The assault talent is not suitable for magical powers above the perfect grade. What a pity! Lin Chen laughed in his heart, and a trace of excitement appeared on his face. So what if you have a 9th grade bloodline? Brother Chen will defeat you today. Green light swam, and the power of Atlas gathered on Lin Chen's azure dragon right arm. He suddenly pushed his palm horizontally and stretched out a claw. Rumble! A green dragon claw burst out from his 5 fingers like a coiling dragon. Its power covered the sky and the earth, and it erupted with a dragon aura that could shatter the stars in the sky and shake Yang Anren. Together with the extreme hell heavenly prison, it surrounded her from the front and the back. Everyone was shocked when they saw this. It was actually another extraordinary level divine ability? Yang Anren unleashed all her 20 billion dragon power points. She raised her hands high, and a pitch-black ball condensed between her palms and smashed it down. Dark dragon sky shatter. Just as the black ball was about to collide with the green dragon claw, the latter suddenly trembled and turned into 5 claws. The host has consumed 200,000 talent points to activate 2 orange talents and enhance the extraordinary bloodline ability. Instant light split shadow. Lin Chen smiled wickedly. What? Almost everyone's scalp tingled. The extraordinary divine ability was divided into 5 moves? The power didn't change? Bam! 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 The 5 dragon claws shattered the black ball, stirring up a green and dark storm and setting off a shocking explosion. It was as if the entire existential plane was about to be overturned. Every wisp of energy was crushing the spatial crystal walls, and Yang Anren was tightly bound by the extreme hell heavenly prison. The 2 of them were sent flying far away by the aftermath of the collision. Both of them vomited blood and flew backward at the same time. The ancient skyscraping dragon bloodline's extraordinary magical power, Heavenly Claw. It consumed the dragon bloodline's power to unleash a heaven-shaking dragon claw. Its power could cover the sky and earth and overturn the stars in the existential plane with 1 claw. It could increase the original dragon power's destructive power by 1 to 3 times, and with the power of dragon breath, it could tear the opponent's defense apart. With the enhancement of instant light split shadow, the power of this move was enough to shake the current Yang Anren. However, the consumption was also extremely terrifying. Almost 1/10 of Lin Chen's talent points were used up in an instant. Yang Anren is seriously injured. Why does this kid have so many trump cards? Oh no, Bang Bang's accumulated injuries are too heavy. Although Yang Anren is seriously injured, he might be shaken to death. The mighty figures of the dragon race suddenly got up, ready to attack at any time. If this continued, the dragon race might lose 2 peerless geniuses. Yang Anren was injured, and the injuries were continuous and could not be healed. Bathed in her own dragon blood, she finally revealed the true form of the dark heavenly dragon. The purplish-black dragon's body was like that of a Yinglong and a Qilin, looking down on the world and dominating the primordial world. Its dragon claws were like towering mountains, and a pair of sky-covering dragon wings was raised on its back. Every flap of the dragon wings stirred up torrential storms that swept through the 9 heavens and stirred up the clouds. The dragon's head was majestic, and the dragon's eyes were filled with violent fighting spirit. At the sight of the insufferably arrogant dark heavenly dragon, many of the dragon race's princes and princesses trembled in fear. However, before the first wave subsided, another wave arose. On the other side, the new Azure Dragon King was bathed in blood. The aura of yin and yang covered the top of his head, and the black and white dragon breath flowed through his body like endless power of creation. His pale face actually recovered its color at a speed visible to the naked eye. At this moment, many dragon race experts and mighty figures suddenly stood up. Their faces twitched in horror as if they had seen a ghost. This was another type of bloodline. This kid didn't have 2 8th-grade bloodlines, but 3 8th-grade bloodlines coexisting in one body. What the hell was going on? Chapter 1236. Their scalps went numb. Cold sweat dripped down their backs. They wanted to subscribe. This was the current state of all the Dragon Tribe experts. Even the powerful beings of the Dragon Tribe were no exception. Because this scene was simply too strange. Ji Bangbang's body was surrounded by yin-yang dragon chi, one black and one white. They were like 2 dancing dragons dancing around him. Every time they spun, his injuries would heal faster. This kind of efficient healing method, this kind of perfect fusion of yin and yang energy, this kind of tenacious vitality, it was the yin-yang creation dragon bloodline. And it was also an 8th-grade bloodline. 3 8th-grade bloodlines? 4 bloodlines coexisting in one body? This scene was even more terrifying than witnessing the 9th-grade bloodline Dark Sky Dragon's true body. Although 9th-grade bloodline was extremely rare in the immemorial Dragon Tribe, it was not unheard of in history. However, in the history of the immemorial Dragon Tribe, there was no Dragon Tribe that could coexist with 3 8th-grade bloodlines. Chen Xie was so shocked that he muttered to himself, no wonder the battle between him and Crown Prince Xianzhen felt strange. How could he block Crown Prince Xianzhen's attack with just his defense? He has the yin-yang creation dragon bloodline to protect him. When the various powerhouses savored it, a wave of shock crashed into their hearts. The yin-yang creation dragon, the life creation dragon, was born with yin-yang dragon chi to protect their bloodlines. Their powerful vitality was ranked at the top of the dragon tribe, far surpassing other dragons of the same level. Their recovery ability could even regrow broken limbs in battle. Although this dragon tribe's attack and defense were weak, their vitality was extremely strong. Especially their healing ability, they could heal other Dragon Tribe members. This was a true treasure of the Dragon Tribe. The yin-yang creation Dragon Tribe did not participate in this 10,000 Dragons conference because this Dragon Tribe was a treasure. Every death of this Dragon Tribe member meant one less Dragon Tribe member. If it was the princess of this Dragon Tribe, thousands of tribes would fight over her. If it was the crown prince of this Dragon Tribe, hundreds of tribes would propose marriage. This was the immemorial Dragon Tribe that was sought after by countless Dragon Tribes. However, the new king of the Green Dragon Tribe, Ji Bangbang, had the ancient sky-raising dragon, extreme hell water dragon, and yin-yang creation dragon bloodline, 3 8th-grade bloodlines. What did this mean? It meant that he had the defense of the ancient sky-raising dragon, the attack of the extreme hell water dragon, and the vitality of the yin-yang creation dragon. A truly perfect body. It was unknown which expert had blurted out the fragrant scent. F***CK. Isn't that F***King cheating? Attack, defense, recovery, perfect as one. Are you F***King writing a book here? In the history of the primordial dragon clan, there weren't any outrageous dragons. No matter how experienced the dragon clan's experts were, they could not remain calm. He cursed on the spot. Some of the dragon crown princes were even more enraged. This was too infuriating. Long by long. 8th-grade bloodline, one type was already rare enough, but this guy had 3 types of bloodline to himself? Wasn't Jill afraid of being punished by the heavens? Mr. Lin chuckled and said, "Are you surprised? Are you surprised? Is this exciting?" The Yin-Yang Fortune Dragon bloodline was the last bloodline he had chosen before leaving the Divine Dragon ruins. It made up for the final flaw of his Holy Dragon bloodline. The only downside was that this bloodline was a new bloodline and could not inherit the same level as the previous bloodlines. Even after using up all his strengthening points, he could only strengthen it to plus 12. Even someone as insufferably strong as Yang Anren also felt an unprecedented sense of oppression. 3-in-1. Azure Dragon King, you are worthy of me, Yang Anren, to bet everything I have to fight you. Rumble. The dark heavenly dragon soared into the sky. Even though its dragon blood was gushing out, it was still like a world-shaking dragon that could split heaven and earth. With a flap of its dragon wings, it swept up raging winds and a huge dark storm, destroying the damaged extreme hell heavenly prison. Lin Chen stepped into the air, golden light covering his head. His yin-yang dragon aura fluctuated, and his dragon bloodline was recovering at the same time. He had recovered more than half of his injuries, close to 60%. It was already very fast to recover to this extent in such a short time. Even if he ate long qingguo and glazed bodhi seeds, he would not be able to catch up to this efficiency. There was still a difference between the injuries of the holy dragon body and the human sacred body. You are not the only one with extraordinary, remarkable abilities. Yang Anren opened its dragon mouth, and a pitch-black abyssal dragon breath gathered like a vortex. An aura of destruction quietly spread out. Lin Chen exhaled and ignored the attribute light balls dropped by Yang Anren. He was fully focused. The difference in cultivation between him and Yang Anren was huge. The difference was 9 billion dragon power points and a grade 1 bloodline. His 2 grade 8 bloodlines were strengthened by plus 15, but in terms of potential and talent, they could not compare to a grade 9 bloodline. The reason he could fight until now was all because of the slow rune and a few orange talents. To be able to force Lin Chen to this extent, Yang Anren could be called a monster without a doubt. My dragon bloodline is only enough for one extraordinary remarkable ability, one move to settle the universe. Lin Chen gathered all his dragon bloodline. Dense green light surrounded him, and the holy light on his left arm covered the world. Many dragon race experts held their breaths. This was going to be a historical scene. It had been many eras since a grade 9 bloodline appeared in the 10,000 Dragons faction. This time, not only did a grade 9 bloodline appear, but an unprecedented genius had also appeared. It's already at this juncture. What is this gilding Bang Bang doing? Why isn't he transforming into his dragon form? The dark dragon head tilted up, and the destructive aura in the dark vortex suddenly erupted. A black spear covered the sky. Great dark abyss, fallen sky spear. The destructive aura at the tip of the spear was like an unstoppable hurricane, directly locking onto Lin Chen's dragon aura. There was no way to escape. This spear made many mid-stage, stage 8 dragon race experts smell the scent of death. If they faced this spear, they would definitely die. Boom! A grayish-white talisman appeared out of nowhere, and the talisman's energy decreased sharply by 200,000 points. Splat! Rip! The black spear pierced through the grayish-white talisman's freezing power. After its power was reduced by a portion, it pierced toward Lin Chen. Instant light split shadow, heavenly claw. Boom! The green light dragon claw was like the sun and moon in the sky, crushing the fallen sky spear. Bang! 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 The entire plane exploded in an instant, and all the spatial crystal walls shattered, turning into fragments that flew everywhere. The two of them were sent flying by the shockwaves. Before the battle plane shattered, dozens of spiritual light beams descended and collected all the attribute light balls that Yang Anren had dropped. The battle plane that had been reinforced by the dragon race experts was strong enough to withstand the damage of a mid-4th Heaven True Saint Realm expert. Attack! Both of them are going to die like this. Whoosh! 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 Chen Xie and the gray-robed old woman's figures flashed as they entered the void. The other experts also entered the void and pressed their palms together, stabilizing the shock waves from the battle so that it wouldn't affect the 10,000 Dragons faction. Boom! Boom! The two of them were brought back into the faction by the dragon race expert. Everyone felt a lingering fear in their hearts. These two fellows had even destroyed the battle plane. How perverted were their attacks! However, more people were concerned about who had won and who had lost. Chapter 12:37. At this time, both of them were heavily injured. Yang Anren had returned to her human form, but her body was covered in wounds. Her black dress was soaked in dragon blood, and her beautiful eyes were slightly unfocused. On the other hand, although the Azure Dragon King's blood was weak, his head was covered in golden holy aura. The yin-yang dragon breath still had energy to revolve around him and heal his injuries. Victory and defeat had already been decided. Lin Chun walked in front of Yang Anren. Although he was panting, his fighting spirit was high as he asked, "Do you still want to fight? In terms of endurance, I am not inferior to anyone." Yang Anren's heart palpitated. Her expression was unfocused as she looked at the youth in front of her who was grinning wildly. "I lost." Yang Anren unwillingly said those 3 words. This was the first time she had lost to someone of the same age since she was born. Her injuries could not be healed, but her opponent could quickly heal them. The result was clear at a glance. Hearing Yang Anren's answer, all the Dragon Race Supreme Elders were stunned. The gray-clothed old woman reacted the fastest and loudly shouted, "This old woman announces that the champion of this 10,000 dragons gathering is the Azure Dragon tribe. Congratulations on the birth of the new king of 10,000 dragons, Jill Ing Bang Bang." The 10,000 dragons gathering was in an uproar. Some were dumbfounded, some were shouting. This was a dreamlike counterattack. The king of 10,000 dragons. It was a title that belonged to the primordial dragon tribe countless times. The 10,000 dragons gathering had not produced a king of 10,000 dragons below the primordial dragon tribe for countless epochs. There had only been one recorded in history, and it was a shocking talent of the primordial dragon tribe. In terms of bloodline talent, resources, and cultivation, the primordial dragon tribe completely suppressed the primordial dragon tribe and the primordial dragon tribe. Even if one stood in the primordial dragon tribe, it was almost impossible for them to counterattack. In short, it was almost impossible for anyone below the primordial dragon tribe to kill their way out of the 10,000 dragons gathering and take first place in the final assessment. Now, the Azure Dragon tribe had broken this record. The most excited were the Azure Dragon tribe. It was as if they were in a dream, and their minds were filled with ecstasy. Even when their bloodline had transformed, they had never dreamed of such glory. "Our Dragon King is the king of 10,000 dragons." The elders of the Azure Dragon tribe wept tears of joy. "Father, do you see this? We have become the king of 10,000 dragons." Mu Tianqing's tears flowed down as she clenched her fists. Under everyone's gaze, before the mighty figures of the Dragon Clan could personally present the award, Lin Chun slowly walked to the podium. He stood proudly on the champion's seat, smiling calmly and domineeringly. "All of the participating teams, is there anyone else who wants to fight? At this moment, whether it's a spar or a death match, whether it's a duel or a group duel, as long as there's a challenge, this king will accept it all." Clang! Boom! He suddenly pulled out the Azure Dragon banner, the divine charm between his brows dominating the world. Lin Chun held the banner with one hand, and the dragon banner danced wildly in the wind. This prince has always convinced people with his virtue. Those who are not convinced, I will beat them until they are. Now that the Azure Dragon tribe has taken down the king of 10,000 dragons, who has any objections? If anyone is unconvinced, you can come up now. If you defeat me, the king of 10,000 dragons will be given to you. The corners of Lin Chen's mouth curled up, and he smiled wickedly. There was an uproar in the venue. The young man's figure was as straight as a spear, and his face was pale and cold. The Yin-Yang dragon chi was like two dancing dragons, coiling around his body. Endless golden light covered the top of his head, and his silver robe fluttered. The dragon banner fluttered, and his domineering aura surged. He was like a king looking down on the world. All the doubts, disdain, ridicule, and mockery from before vanished into thin air. In the huge venue, not a single dragon made a sound. Whoever was unconvinced could go up and challenge him now. No one dared to move. Even the arrogant primordial dragon race princes did not dare to make a sound. Domineering, powerful, carefree, this new king of 10,000 dragons had played this role to the fullest. Yang Anren's beautiful eyes were in a daze as she stared at the figure under the dragon banner. Ha ha, the heavens have not abandoned our race. What a new king of 10,000 dragons! This boldness is the son of the new era that we are pursuing. Bang Bang, you have already exceeded our expectations. At that moment, a few laughter and praises that shook the heavens sounded from the void. The expressions of the mighty figures of the dragon race changed slightly. The upper echelons had spoken. Chunxia, give out the rewards. When one of the upper echelons sent a voice transmission, his dragon might was vast and intimidating. At that moment, a red-faced man with a chiseled face stood out slowly. The red-faced mighty figure cupped his fists and said seriously, "Upper echelons, there's still something that hasn't been resolved. This lad has a lot to do with this matter." With that said, the red-faced mighty figure did not wait for the upper echelons to reply. He turned around and questioned sternly, Bang Bang, tell me your background. Also, your relationship with Lin Chen of the human race. Right now, I suspect that you colluded with the human race to harm the primordial dragon race's prince. If you don't tell me the truth, I'll cripple you and lock you in the dragon prison no matter how talented you are. The red-faced mighty figure's words stirred up 1,000 waves. Colluding with the human race to harm the primordial dragon race's prince? Without waiting for the higher-ups to speak, the red-faced man invited two graceful and beautiful figures. One of them was still charming, delicate and alluring. One of them was extremely charming and alluring. Fear and trepidation could be seen in the eyes of the two ladies as they sized up Lin Chen. "That's right, it's him," the mother and daughter said in unison. Lin Chen's heart skipped a beat. It was the illusory heart dragon's princess and Madame Huan Meng? How do you explain this matter? The upper echelons sent a voice transmission, their dragon might filling the air. All the experts felt suffocated. Upper echelons, it's like this. A few months ago, the red-faced mighty figure briefly described Lin Chen's battle results in the illusory heart dragon. When the experts in the venue heard this, some were shocked and some were furious. Colluding with the human race to harm the primordial dragon race's prince was a serious matter. If Bang Bang had killed his own people, it would have been fine. The key was that he was involved with the human race. Most of the experts in the venue were more or less related to the human race, but they would not collude with the human race to harm their own race. Any grudges would be settled by their own race. If the human race interfered, the nature of the matter would be different. While the red-faced mighty figure was explaining, Lin Chen connected to the system without batting an eyelid. Once the matter was exposed, he could not just stand there and wait to be killed. Super-dimensional teleportation and the maximum value of the delaying rune would be activated instantly. His only blue-rank ultimate surekill skill and the Ares set would be used. What? This kid is related to the human Lin Chen? An elder of the nine-clawed Big Dipper dragon race suddenly stood up with a cold expression. Once, one of their dragon princes had died in the four-way conference of the human race. That prince's bloodline had not been fully awakened. In the future, he had the potential to attain a fifth-grade bloodline. His murderer was a human called Lin Chen. There's such a bizarre thing. When the voice in the void sounded, it was slightly surprised, but there was not much anger or blame. Bang bang. What's the relationship between you and that Lin Chen? The upper echelons sent a voice transmission, and everyone's eyes turned to Lin Chen. The Green Dragon Race's people felt their hearts tighten. Chapter 1238. Lin Chen smiled calmly. Of course, it's a cooperative relationship. Could it be that we're friends with benefits? Although both of us are very handsome, our goal is very simple. I want to take a bath in the illusory Heart Dragon's dragon pool, and he wants the illusory Heartstone, so we hit it off. This casual attitude made many powerful beings' mouths twitch. Those who didn't know would think that you were entering your own backyard? You want to go to someone else's dragon pool so blatantly? Lin Chen's attitude made the upper echelons slightly stunned. Humph. The red-faced mighty figure snorted coldly, and his shoulders shook. His dragon aura surged as he sneered. I think you're looking down on the rules of the dragon race. I'll capture you first. Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. His main body in Qing Shui's pouch was ready to fight with all its might. Just as the red-faced mighty figure was about to suppress Lin Chen with a palm strike, an ethereal voice that was like the sound of nature reverberated in the myriad dragon arena. If you touch him, all the dragons will die today. Boom! Monstrous demonic aura descended upon the myriad dragon arena like a 1,000-foot torrent. The owner of the voice was so cold that it made all the dragons shudder. Demonic aura surged like a tide. At the center of the demonic aura vortex, a slender and beautiful black-robed figure slowly stepped out. She wore a cloak, hiding her true appearance. All the mighty figures of the dragon race were shocked. A powerful being of the demon race? Who are you? Chen Xie, the gray-robed old woman, and the other mighty figures of the dragon race soared into the sky, erupting with earth-shattering dragon aura. Rays of dragon light illuminated thousands of miles, and the void within 50,000 miles trembled. The mighty figures of the dragon race only used 1/10 of a breath to surround the black-robed person. Everyone entered a state of combat readiness. As long as the other party made any move, they would immediately launch an earth-shattering attack toward her. The person who came was very strong. These mighty figures of the dragon race were all the pillars of the primordial dragon race for 100,000 eras. None of them would underestimate this mysterious black-robed woman. Lin Chen's eyes trembled. It's actually her. Why is she here? All of the dragon tribe powerful beings in the myriad dragon assembly grounds instantly felt a suffocating pressure. This was an absolute suppression that originated from the difference in cultivation level. Don't act rashly. A cry of alarm reverberated. It was the voice of one of the higher-ups hiding in the void. Just as he finished speaking, a series of explosions rang out. The bodies of the 12 dragon race mighty figures were as bright as the stars and the moon. Before they could even unleash half of their power, they all spat out blood and retreated. Those Dragon Clan experts who wanted to resist instantly felt their scalps tingle. They didn't even see when the black-robed man attacked. What kind of great god was this? How dare you? Another upper echelon shouted angrily through voice transmission. Thousands of miles of the sky trembled, and a crack that was like a deep abyss split open. An ancient and desolate might was about to descend. From the heavenly abyss, endless draconic energy seeped out. The dragon talismans and giant dragon shadows that danced in the air seemed to have returned to the ancient times. The black-robed woman raised her slender hand and clenched it gently. Billions of blood-red light gathered in her palm. All the light in the world gradually dimmed and finally turned into a blood moon scimitar. This scimitar looked like it was made of blood jade. The blade was bright and light like snow, but the rolling demonic aura seemed to be able to split open the ancient times. It released an extremely demonic aura. You are? The higher-ups hiding in the distant void exclaimed in shock. All the spirit chi, vitality, light, space, and even time in the world seemed to have been sucked dry by the blood moon scimitar. Light was devoured and absorbed by the blade. Vitality was devoured and turned into a vortex that was annihilated by the blood moon scimitar. The moment the blood moon scimitar appeared, the 12 mighty figures of the dragon tribe turned from shock to horror. They were actually uncontrollably sucked in by the blood moon scimitar. Damn it! An exasperated voice came from heavenly abyss. In an instant 12 dragon-shaped auras surged out, stirring up the sky and shifting the void, pulling the 12 mighty figures back alive. Be it the veteran experts or the participating prodigies, their faces were filled with horror. It was too terrifying. This mysterious person hadn't even made a move, but she had already suppressed 12 mighty figures of the dragon tribe, who could kill 4th heaven and 5th heaven true saints in an instant. Just how strong was she exactly? Whoosh! The cloaked woman pointed the blood moon scimitar at the venue and looked at the void on the other side. You can save them, but I wonder if you can save the ants here? The woman's words scared many of the young prodigies of the dragon tribe out of their wits. F***ck. If this blade slashed down, not even a speck of dust would be left of them. That was a move that defied common sense. Even the mighty figures of the dragon tribe couldn't escape from it, let alone them. Why did you offend the dragon tribe? Do you really think that the divine dragon of our tribe won't appear in the world? When the higher-ups spoke, some of the old monsters' mouths trembled, and their scalps went numb. What kind of background did this woman have? Even the higher-ups had to use the name of the divine dragon to scare her? I want him. The black-robed woman grabbed with her palm and directly pulled Lin Chen over out of thin air. She carried him with one hand like she was carrying a chicken. Do you think I don't care about my face? You. Another higher-up was furious. They were planning to nurture Ing Bang Bang, but a demon appeared out of nowhere to snatch the dragon? Why? Do you have a problem with that? The black-robed woman's slender hand shook, and a demonic blood-colored blade light flashed out. Wherever it passed, the space around it twisted into a vortex, and all the light was sucked out and swallowed by the blade light. Rumble! It directly shattered the heavenly abyss in the sky. If you're not afraid of losing tens of thousands of dragons, then chase after me. The black-cloaked woman carried Lin Chen, and without saying a word, she stepped into the void and flashed 10,000 miles away. This, Chen Xie gritted his teeth. A peerless genius of the dragon tribe with 3 rank 8 bloodlines was snatched away just like that? Don't chase after him. This person's background is extraordinary and beyond our ability. When the higher-ups transmitted their voice, they hurriedly said, "Clean up the mess." Then, they disappeared without a trace. All the dragon tribe experts were dumbfounded. What kind of deity was this Gilding Bang Bang? There was actually such a terrifying expert behind him? He came directly to the 10,000 Dragons Guild to snatch him? The eyes of the Azure Dragon tribe elders almost popped out. Their Dragon King was kidnapped just like that? Traveling through the void, Lin Chen became a chicken and was carried for tens of thousands of miles. He didn't know how far he was taken. After a long time, he sensed that the spatial travel had stopped. He was placed on a mountain peak. I say, Beauty Luo, can you leave me some face next time? Speaking of which, what do you want to do? You suddenly appeared. Even I was shocked by you. Lin Chen rubbed his face that was about to cramp as he smiled bitterly. He knew that this woman was Luo Yaoer, who he had met in the sacred burial mountain range. Luo Yaoer had seen his holy dragon and had a demonic mark on her body. Even if his bloodline transformed, she could recognize him. Therefore, Lin Chen's holy dragon could hide from others, but not from her. But Luo Yaoer grabbed him by the collar and pulled him in front of her. Her delicate fragrance lingered around his nose. Lin Chen was shouting in his heart. I want you. Lin Chen was shocked. F***ck. What's going on? I'm not a casual person. Right, let me look for my dual cultivation talent first. Chapter 1239. Inside the cloak, Luo Yao Er's beautiful eyes looked straight at Lin Chen. I want you to come with me. Luo Yao Er's answer stunned Lin Shuai, who was about to upgrade his dual cultivation talent. Go with you? What do you mean? The previous you said to go back to the demon race with you. Lin Chen was puzzled. Luo Yao Er nodded, and there was a hint of anxiousness in her tone. Yes, in this life, you will never step into the sacred boundary of the human race again. Follow me to the demon race, and I will make you my right-hand man. That's impossible, Lin Chen rejected. Perhaps this Luo Yao Er had left some indelible impressions and good impressions in his heart. The two of them had experienced life and death together, but this was not a reason for Lin Chen to give up on himself. Don't worry, I won't control your consciousness. If you want to take back your friends and family, when my demon race rises, you will be the overlord of the sacred boundary. What 9th level saint, 9th revolution saint realm, saint king, they can only bow their heads in front of you. Luo Yao Er's tone gradually softened, and for the first time, there was a hint of pleading. Lin Chen's attitude was firm. I don't know why you suddenly did this, but I will never change what I have decided. I will not follow anyone, including you. Rumble. Luo Yao Er's aura soared, her demonic eyes were cold, and a terrifying oppressive feeling overturned the sky, completely suppressing Lin Chen. If that's the case, then I can only forcibly control your consciousness and take you away. The current Luo Yao Er was many times stronger than when she was seriously injured in the sacred burial mountain range. Her injuries seemed to have completely recovered, and with a thought, Lin Chen's sacred dragon could not move. Then come and try it. I guarantee you won't even be able to get my corpse. Lin Chen's eyes were deep. Even though he could not move, the sacred dragon's body began to burn with orange flames. That was the sign of activating the absolute life and death talent. Luo Yao Er had seen it before. Luo Yao Er was silent, although Lin Chen could not see her true appearance. He could still feel her inner turmoil. Finally, when she looked at Lin Chen again, her eyes were incomparably cold. She slowly raised her slender hand. The pressure on Lin Chen suddenly increased, and the demonic seal on her palm began to surge with violent demonic energy. It rushed straight to his head and into his spiritual sea, trying to forcibly control Lin Chen. On the contrary, Lin Chen calmed down. His tone was somewhat cold. I risked my life to save you last time, and this is how you repay me. Luo Yao Er's delicate hand stiffened and her heart was in a mess. She couldn't help but coldly scold, Is it so difficult to follow me? Power, strength, status, lifespan, if you follow me, you can obtain these things with a flip of your hand. Why are you so stubborn? You're the stubborn one. Lin Chen sneered. Can't you see what kind of person I am? The beautiful woman's body trembled. What was he like? He wasn't even afraid of the will of the gods, so how could he control his will? Even if he could, after being controlled, would he still be the person she wanted? However, she didn't know why, but she couldn't let him go. Every time she recalled the scenes in the holy burial mountain range, her heart would always ache with anticipation. I really want to take you away from here. Suddenly, Lin Chen felt the pressure of the demonic seal on his palm slowly dissipate, and the demonic energy receded like a tide. Luo Yao Er lowered her hand and lifted her cloak. Lin Chen was slightly stunned, although he had seen Luo Yao Er's appearance and temperament. When he saw her again, it was still breathtaking. Her fine black hair was like a waterfall, and her eyebrows were beautiful. Her nose was delicate, and her snow-white skin outlined her perfect and holy beauty. She was like a goddess from the highest heavens, but her eyebrows were dotted with cinnabar, and when she smiled, she was as charming as a witch. The pure and holy face of a celestial fairy, and the extremely charming temperament of a witch, the two perfectly coexisted, as if she were the most unique beauty in the world. The corners of her eyes flashed with tears, but she smiled sweetly, her smile stunning all things in the world. In the end, I still can't harden my heart and kill you. Lin Chen, I have to leave. Thank you for letting me have a good dream. Lin Chen was startled. He could feel that the always cold and indifferent Luo Yao seemed to have the weakness of a young girl for the first time. Lin Chen took a deep breath. Where are you going? Luo Yao turned around, her back like a painting, like a dancing goddess. She stepped into the air and softly said, I have to go to a very distant world. I will forget everything. Lin Chen's heart inexplicably tightened. He stared at Luo Yao's departing back and suddenly shouted out, If you are in danger next time, I will protect you again. The beautiful woman's body trembled. As her tears fell, she giggled. Idiot, take care of yourself. Lin Chen suddenly leapt into the air. He reached out and grabbed the beautiful woman's back, turning her into a wisp of smoke. When I was born, you weren't born. When you were born, I was already dead. I hope that in this life you will never forget me. The woman's resentful sigh echoed in the sky. Lin Chen stood in the same place for a long time. He was like a block of wood on the mountain peak. The cold wind whistled. After an unknown period of time, he suddenly slapped his forehead. Oh my God, it's almost time for the preliminaries. I have to go back quickly. Lin Chen slapped the peach blossom plant pouch. Little Shadow turned into a thick and big black dragon and roared. Little guy, it's your turn to perform. Lin Chen grabbed Little Shadow's little tail. Purple lightning flashed above Little Shadow's head. Woohoo Shadow, I'm going to fly, Tsangyu World Tower. Today was the last day of registration for the preliminaries. It was said to be the last day, but in reality, the registration had already been completed. For such a grand event, not many people would be absent until the last minute. Which genius did not arrive early to prepare for the preliminaries? On the second floor, the registration elder sat with his legs crossed. He drank Baguio wine and ate melon seeds. He held a book called A Million Postures Encyclopedia and read it with great interest. The elder did not pay attention to what was going on around him. He only focused on reading the book. There was a saying that went, there is a house of gold in a book. There is a handsome face in a book. There is also a handsome stand-up in a book. Look, what's that? Suddenly, many saints on the second floor of the World Tower narrowed their eyes. They sensed a strange phenomenon thousands of miles away. Tens of thousands of miles away, a crack was instantly torn open in the clouds. It was a blazing wave that was moving at an extremely fast speed. Like an aurora, it fell straight towards the boundary tower. Some of the saints on the second floor could not help but stop. When they looked out of the window, they could not help but gasp. It was a shooting star? At the center of the meteor, there was actually an aurora arrow that was moving at an outrageous speed. No. Look, what's that? There's a person standing on that arrow. All the saints were stunned. There was a figure standing in front of the arrow? The arrow traveled thousands of miles and shot outside the second floor of the World Tower. Bang! Boom! The World Tower was extremely sturdy. Although the arrow was powerful, it could not shake it at all. It only exploded into fragments of arrow light. Damn it, who is interrupting my study? Who dares to attack my World Tower? How dare you? The elder whose study was interrupted angrily lifted his loose belt and cursed. Amidst the dust and smoke caused by the explosion of the arrow light, a young figure appeared. His laughter spread throughout the second floor of the World Tower. Countless geniuses were stunned. A handsome arrow. Thousands of handsome men have come to meet me. I'm Jiying. Oh no, I'm Lin Chen from the Black Horse Club. I'm here to sign up for the Monster Ranking Reserve competition. After saying that, Lin Feng waved his hand, and 3 Demon Genius List candidate tokens shot toward the elder, who was learning just now. One of the Saint Realm geniuses gasped. He came over on the arrow? Chapter 1240. There were 3 dragon steels in the air. The dragon steels were ancient and filled with dragon carvings. They released silver spatial power that seemed to connect the heavens and move the stars. Suddenly, the dragon's steels lit up and many figures descended. Everyone, why are you so shocked? Didn't you go to pay attention to the 10,000 dragon gathering? Why have you returned so quickly? The dragon's steels flickered and a calm voice came out. A faint dragon roar echoed in the air, and the dragon's might shook the surroundings. It was an almost invincible will. It was as if the owner of this voice could change the world with a single thought. Reporting to Grand Elder, a female demon appeared in the 10,000 dragon gathering. She has a demonic saber that can devour time and space. In the darkness, the two figures that returned said in a trembling voice, It's suspected to be the demon empress. Demonic saber, heaven slashing, what? The voice that was deep and unfathomable a moment ago actually panicked for an instant. That woman took away the rising star mentioned in our report. The two of us didn't have time to descend. The two continued to report and briefly described the situation in the 10,000 dragon gathering. The voice on the dragon's steels asked very seriously, Are you sure her goal is only to take away this child? The two in the darkness looked at each other and said with certainty, It should be. With her strength, if she wants to charge into the various races of the great desolate continent, we can't stop her. The dragon steels were silent for a long time before saying, Search for news of the new Azure Dragon King closely, but don't alarm her. There's no need to offend such an enemy for a junior. I need to report this matter to the desolate ancient dragon race personally. I'll leave the rest to you. After saying that, the dragon's steel resumed its eternal silence. The two of them sighed faintly and disappeared in a flash. Inside the 10,000 dragon gathering, all the dragons were still in shock after the previous accident. When the final prize was given out, the Azure Dragon race took the Azure Dragon flag and left with endless glory. The first place reward of the representative competition went to the Azure Dragon race. The reward of the King of 10,000 Dragons and the special reward of the Honorable Dragon race was enough to transform the entire Azure Dragon race. Adding on the upper echelon of the Azure Dragon race that had been baptized in the Dragon Tomb and Mu Tianqing, who had a peak grade 7 bloodline, the Azure Dragon race's future was at least a peak ancient dragon race. Will the new king be alright? The first elder asked worriedly as the Azure Dragon clan members returned to their own territory. No, he's fine. Mu Tianqing spread out the jade pendant in her palm, her eyes full of hope. He gave me the jade pendant in advance. He must have expected this day, or he was prepared to leave. There was also the Azure Dragon Pearl that Lin Chun had given her. It was made from the purple dragon pearl that he had obtained in the first trial. It could be used to strengthen the elder's bloodlines, and at the same time, it could also sense the life and death of its master. In the entire dragon clan, only Mu Tianqing knew that the current new king was very safe. Is this the path you left for me? I will break through and show you. Mu Tianqing held the Azure Dragon Pearl tightly while a wisp of unswerving determination surged onto her cold and beautiful face. She knew why the new king called himself the future Dragon King from the very beginning. He had never wanted to be the Azure Dragon King. The second level of the Boundary Tower. The elder raised his hand and grabbed 3 streams of light. They were the candidate tokens for the preliminary round of the monster rankings. Oh. Lin Chun from the Black Horse Club? The elder's eyes flashed. You're the Lin Chun who caused a ruckus in the sacred burial mountain range and danced on the Holy King's grave? Lin Chun flipped his hair and chuckled. That's right. You can also call me the most handsome person in the sacred boundary. I'm a very low-key person. Yes, that's the shameless smell. I can't be wrong. The elder beamed with joy. He picked up the brush and scurried away, taking Lin Chen's name and the candidate token. With a flick of his palm, a red light shuttled back and forth. Lin Chen held the red light. It was a red jade slip. Go to the 3rd level of the Boundary Pagoda. The preliminary round is about to begin. Your name will be entered into a random draw. Go up quickly or you'll be eliminated. You can't travel through space in the boundary pagoda. You have to hurry." The elder stroked his beard and smiled. Lin Chen cupped his fists and smiled. "Many thanks, elder. I'm going to fly." Lin Chen's figure flickered, and he shot up to the 3rd level. Only then did the true Saint Realm geniuses and holy kings react. He's Lin Chen? Oh my god! I finally saw him in person today. F***ck, he's really handsome. He has both potential and strength. Why is the heavens so unfair? Why is this different from what I've heard? Didn't I hear that this Lin Chen is incomparably ugly, ferocious, and has 3 heads and 6 arms? Nonsense, can you not listen to such rumors? This young master is the first freak in history to refine pills with his gaze. I've heard that several hidden grade 6 alchemy families and sects have come out to recruit him. The candidate rankings meeting is going to explode. He exploded 9 acupoints in a row, toyed with a holy king, and fought a dozen 4th heaven true saints alone. F***ck, who among these geniuses can compete with him? It's hard to say that he's borrowing external strength. It's not completely his own cultivation. The stronger the strength, the greater the price he has to pay. The moment Lin Chen appeared, it instantly caused a heated discussion among the experts in the entire Realm Tower. The only difference this time was that it had been 7 months since the Holy Burial Mountain Range. Even in the boundless sacred boundary, there were many experts who had come into contact with Lin Chen. During these 7 months, Lin Chen's various experiences, legends, stories, and secrets in the Saints' world, including the few women he had come in contact with, had all been completely dug up by some peak forces. The only thing missing was the color of his underwear. There were even experts who secretly sent envoys to the Ice Heart Palace to befriend him. There were even people who brought their daughters to the White Dragon Gate to propose marriage. That's right, they were all trying to rope in Lin Chen. This was because Lin Chen could be said to be the one and only weirdo throughout the ages. In the sacred boundary, every peerless genius had their own background and experience. They were either recruited into a top sect, ancient family, or giant force. The birth of every genius was accompanied by abundant resources, cultivation's secret realms, miraculous opportunities, top-notch cultivation techniques, and the guidance of famous teachers. Not a single factor could be missing. All of these factors required the support of a powerful force. No matter how talented an ordinary genius was, if they didn't have a powerful background and the support of a sect, just a top-notch cultivation technique would take a lot of time and effort to obtain, not to mention other ways to become stronger. Only Lin Chen was different. His background was a blank piece of paper. No matter how powerful a force was, there would only be one result after an investigation. This kid was born in the mortal world. Moreover, he didn't belong to any force. It was King Black Horse Club, and it was created by this kid himself. Without any forces, he had roamed the sacred boundary alone and killed his way from the Combat Emperor realm to the monstrous geniuses list in a little over a year? He was a freaking monster. Chapter 1241. Therefore, Lin Chen was a walking piece of unpolished jade to all the top forces. Whoever could recruit him would have a heaven-defying powerhouse rise in the near future. Although it was rare for someone to become one of the top 100,000 geniuses on the genius list without the support of a force, it was not unheard of. However, there were only a few who could reach Lin Chen's level. Since ancient times, there were only a handful of geniuses who could stand out from the top 100,000 geniuses on the genius list in a short period of time without the support of a force. These monsters without the support of a force almost all survived in the end, and became the dominant force in the sacred boundary. That was how the Clear Sky Sage King rose. Now, Lin Chen had become the most eye-catching person in the eye of the storm. All the forces in the 36 domains had their eyes on him. Lin Chen ran all the way from the second level. Wherever he went, his eyes would shine, and he would constantly use the stealing omen on the sages to steal their attributes. On the third level of the Realm Tower. The Realm Tower was created by a human sage in the primordial era. The space inside was stable and not chaotic. The space inside was countless times larger than what one could see with the naked eye. One level was comparable to a small continent in the mortal world. This was also the reason why the Elder asked Lin Chen to speed up. Under the premise that he could not travel through space, Lin Chen had to fly the distance of a continent. On the third level, there were 5 void islands connected to the north, south, east, and west. The central island was the largest. Each void island covered an area of 100,000 acres, and there were more than 10,000 sages on each void island. There were more than 40,000 sages on the third level alone. The extravagance could be said to be unprecedented. They could witness the birth of a new generation of monsters, and they could even see the new generation of monsters fighting against the old generation of monsters. The central island was the largest, and there were 431 people standing there. Their auras, avatars, and characteristics were too unique. Even if they were gathered together, one could still remember them at a glance. The men were tall and strong, with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. Just by standing there, they had the demeanor of a great master. Lightning flashed under their feet, and they dominated the world. Some were cold and arrogant, and their entire bodies were like azuras that had descended into the world. Hundreds of saber-chi tornadoes revolved above their heads, and they had the momentum to support the heavens and the earth. There were some whose sharpness was reserved and peerless. When the holy sword was sheathed, endless sword chi was born and extinguished in their eyes. When the holy sword was sheathed, it was like an ascetic cultivator in the mortal world. When it was unsheathed, it shook the heavens. Some were as savage as archaic descendants. They were several zhang tall, and had a third vertical eye between their brows. Between their breaths, wind, clouds, dragons, tigers, dragons, and snakes moved swiftly. Some were pure and holy, shining with Buddhist light. They wore kasayas, put their palms together, and thousands of Buddhist wheels rose behind their head. Their eyes were tightly shut, and every word they spoke seemed to have an extraordinary meaning of enlightening the world. Some of them were strange and unfathomable. They wore black robes that stirred up chilly winds, and there were 9 demonic dragons that coiled beneath their feet. They had a pair of cold eyes that seemed capable of sending people straight to hell. Some of them had a berserk blood energy, and their auras were peerlessly wild. They carried a blood-colored saber on their backs, and they tore open a bloody ray of light in the sky. The saber saint had descended, and the domineering aura between his brows looked disdainfully at the world. All of the women were captivating beauties, and they were devastatingly beautiful. Some of the beauties were exquisite, some were hot and charming, some were mischievous, some were cunning and intelligent, some were charming and cold, and some were extraordinary. They played the zither alone, and their hearts were as clear as a mirror. They were the top geniuses from the entire 36 domains. These 731 people perfectly illustrated what it meant to be a genius. They did not need any proof. They only needed to stand here, and all the sages would unanimously believe that they were the peerless geniuses that represented this era. The top 1,000 geniuses on the genius ranking had gathered in the Realm Tower, but only 1/3 of them could truly participate in the reserve competition. There were not many geniuses with reserve tokens. Most of the 700 geniuses had withdrawn or given up their original ranking on the genius ranking, and focused on cultivating or collecting reserve tokens. Therefore, the geniuses who were not ranked among them were even more terrifying. No one knew what level they had reached in their cultivation. At this moment, the 731 geniuses were staring straight ahead. Far away from the central island, there were faintly discernible mountains. On the peak of each mountain, there was a figure standing upright. If one were to say that the 731 geniuses had distinct personalities and various avatars, every single one of the figures on the mountain peak had created a brand new world for themselves. The monsters on the genius ranking. Each of the people on the mountain was a peerless monster on the monster genius ranking. Xiao Jing and Long Yijing, who had a feud with Lin Chen, were among them. As long as they passed the reserve competition, they would be qualified to challenge the genius ranking and snatch the other party's ranking. The raging battle intent that filled the entire central island did not need to be spoken. Buzz. It was as if a flame from the 9 heavens had descended to the mortal world and landed on the void island in the east, stunning many geniuses. I have seen such a peerless mental cultivation technique before. That is the Divine Flame Palace's avatar, exclaimed a graceful white-robed young man among the geniuses. The geniuses slightly activated their sage power and saw through the void, looking thousands of miles away. That one look stunned all the geniuses, regardless of gender. They saw a white-robed heaven immortal descending on the void island in the east. She was quiet, beautiful, and peerless. How could such a person exist in the mortal world? Regardless of gender, the genius's first thought was the same. Swoosh! A list glowing with sage light appeared above the geniuses' heads, and many names started to roll. An aged voice spread across the 5 major islands. It was old Shen who spoke. The reserve competition has officially begun. The opponents drawn will enter the battle dimension through the space door in order. Swoosh! 20 silver space doors, each of them 100 feet tall, opened in the air. All the geniuses stared at the rolling list. At this moment, 40,000 sages focused their attention. Every battle here would be of an extremely high standard. Buzz! The waves sparkled and the holy light changed. The names started to be arranged neatly. 299th on the genius ranking, Flying Dragon Startling Clouds, Ji Wushuang. Against unranked genius, Northern Underworld Dark Saber, Moe High. 455th on the genius ranking, Unparalleled Sword, Jian Qingqing. Against 410th on the genius ranking, 1,000 Miles of Dark Ice, Feng Qingxue. First on the genius ranking, Child of Surprise, Han Yiji, against unranked genius, Qin Lian. Other than the 1,000th on the genius ranking, God's Descent, Lin Chen, against unranked genius, Dragon Fist, Yang Wanli. Genius ranking. When they saw the names of the combinations in the 4th row, all the sages were dumbfounded. God's Descent? Lin Chen? Why did his name appear? Wasn't he not here? The powerful figures who were in charge of the various forces were still discussing why this person was absent from this reserve competition. Many sages looked around, but there was no sign of Lin Chen in the central island. Swoosh! 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 After the geniuses got their opponents, they entered the space door in order. A series of screens appeared, showing the situation in the space door. Only the hidden genius, Yang Wanli, was in the 4th space door. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and smirked. What's going on? The list is shown. Where did he go? Could it be a false report? Maybe the elders in the Realm Tower made an exception and registered Lin Chen, and then this person couldn't make it. The sages on the Void Islands were confused. Chapter 1242. While the sages of the 4 islands were discussing, boom, bang, the sound of the wind breaking burst forth, and when it whistled through the air, the dark green battle spear descended like a bolt of lightning. On the Void Island in the west, a beautiful woman in a fiery red dress revealed an inexplicably happy smile. Looks like he has completed our cooperation. It was Scarlet Fairy. On the East Island, a beautiful woman in a white dress suddenly stood up, her eyes filled with longing. It was him. He was here. Goddess, what are you? The handsome young man beside the beautiful woman in the white dress was shocked. He had never seen the goddess so moved. The beautiful woman ignored him and turned into a wisp of smoke. The young man was shocked. In front of the fourth space door, there was a sacred spear. It was like a reincarnation of a phoenix soaring in the sky. Heavy snow fell from the sky. The young man strolled leisurely in the snow. The snowflakes decorated the young man's body, making him look shiny. He was about 8 feet tall, wearing a brand new silver robe. He had a purple jade belt around his waist and a green bow and a red sword on his back. The green bow was decorated with starlight, vast and mysterious. The red sword surged with flames, radiating the aura of a king from time to time. On the young man's waist were a flying dagger as thin as a cicada's wing and an azure-colored dagger. He walked with the dagger in his hand. His face was like jade, the corners of his mouth were raised, and the space between his eyebrows was glowing. He was indescribably handsome and elegant, faintly revealing a kind of absolute confidence, causing people to be unable to help but exclaim in admiration. What a carefree young man who was like an immortal from a painting! Xiao Jinghe stood proudly among the people on the monster list on the mountain peak in the distance. Clang! The young man pulled out his spear and smiled. My apologies, I just went to the 10,000 Dragons Guild and flirted with a few dragon race princesses and a few dragon race princes. I also found a few young dragon race women and picked up a few dragon race bloodlines. When I came back, I watched a few romance movies and took a hot bath. I also changed into a new set of clothes. He changed the topic. If there's anything wrong, please keep it to yourself. I won't change it even if you say it. A handsome wise man once told me that if you're handsome, you can do whatever you want. Silence, all the geniuses. These days, you can brag without using your brain just because you're handsome? What kind of grand event was the 10,000 Dragons Conference? The scale of the competition was not at all inferior to the current preparatory competition. In fact, it might even be better. According to the records of the Sage Realm, most of the dragons that could enter the 10,000 Dragons Guild were mid-8th order holy dragons. Their battle prowess was equivalent to a 4th heaven true saint. You, a human, can enter the Myriad Dragons Guild? Could it be that he didn't even eat a single peanut after drinking last night? Whoosh! A streak of divine light flashed, and an exquisite figure floated down from the sky like a cloud. All the geniuses were shocked. The person who had arrived was the peerless beauty from the divine flame palace who could rival celestial immortals. At this moment, the beautiful woman gazed at Lin Chen, her beautiful eyes filled with endless longing and joy. Lin Chen was slightly stunned. Sister Ruoyan, little brother Lin Chen, the two of them looked at each other, ignoring everything in the world. They only had each other in their eyes. 1 month in the mortal world was 1 year in the sacred boundary. Although Bai Ruoyan had not left the 9 provinces for long, the time she had spent in the sacred boundary was far longer than the time in the mortal world. After Bai Ruoyan had been possessed by the will of the sacred flame, Lin Chen had rescued her. The two of them had been honest with each other in the spiritual world. With their experiences and feelings, and after experiencing spiritual harmony, their hearts were in love with each other. Bai Ruoyan landed in front of Lin Chen, and the two of them were like people in a painting. Lin Chen ignored everyone's shocked gazes and hugged Bai Ruoyan tightly in his arms. The beautiful woman's cheeks flushed red, and she allowed the youth to hug her. She smiled sweetly and said, "I knew you would come. I specially came here to wait for you." Before she could finish speaking, the youth's lips pressed against the beautiful woman's lips domineeringly. At this moment, the entire place fell into a strange silence. Boom! The mountains of the eastern island and the central island were in an uproar. On the mountain peak, Xiao Jing's veins were bulging, and Long Yi Jing's teeth were about to shatter from clenching them. Damn it, this kid had an inexplicably complicated relationship with his sweetheart, the little demon empress, and he also had this kind of relationship with the goddess of the Divine Flame Palace? My God, if this were to spread back to the Divine Flame Palace, those heaven-defying peerless monsters would go crazy with anger. This woman's status in the Divine Flame Palace is not ordinary. I didn't expect her to have this kind of relationship with Lin Chen. Some of the old voices hidden in the void of the Four Islands clicked their tongues in wonder. Their lips parted, and there was a sparkling arc between the two of them. Bai Ruoyan pouted coquettishly, and her beauty was unparalleled. Others are still watching. Lin Chen smiled and said, "So you mean it's okay when no one is watching?" "Well, I think I don't know Sister Ruoyan well enough. It's not easy to meet you, so I'll get to know you better when no one is around." Bai Ruoyan pretended to be angry and glared at him, looking extremely charming. Lin Mao shrugged and said indifferently, "If some people want to see it, then let them see it. I just want everyone to know that you're mine." "What bullshit, Divine Flame Palace? Sooner or later, I'll take you back rightfully." "You?" Bai Ruoyan scratched the tip of his nose and gently helped him tidy up his clothes. "What's the rush? Sister won't run away. Even if a celestial immortal met you, they would have to descend, let alone a mortal like Sister," Lin Chen said seriously. "Don't, Sister, I like you as a celestial immortal. It's fine if you descend, but can you occasionally be a celestial immortal?" Cough, cough, cough. Elder Shern coughed lightly. If these two were to continue being lovey-dovey, those young people and monsters from the Divine Flame Palace would probably all go berserk. "Lin Chen, the preliminaries have already begun. If you don't participate in the challenge, it will be considered as forfeiting." Lin Chen scolded in his heart for not understanding the situation, then smiled at Bai Ruoyan and said, "Sister Ruoyan, please wait a moment." Bai Ruoyan smiled sweetly. "Well, I want to hear what happened after you came to the sacred boundary." She didn't remind Lin Chen to be careful or anything like that, as if she had absolute confidence in him. Lin Chen stepped into the fourth space gate under many shocked, surprised, jealous, and attentive gazes. Bai Ruoyan rose with the wind. She floated like a fairy and returned to the guest seat of East Island. "Goddess Yu!" The handsome young man with a dignified appearance was shocked and angry, gnashing his teeth. "I'll deal with my own affairs. Or do you want to tell me what to do?" Bai Ruoyan glanced at him and the people behind him indifferently. "I really don't understand. There are so many peerless monsters in the palace, and even I am 10 times or 100 times better than this guy. Why do you still?" The handsome young man was a little agitated. His face turned red, and he even forgot to use honorifics. Bai Ruoyan shook her head slightly, leaving only one sentence. "In my heart, he is the most outstanding man in the world. Everything I have is given to me by him." In the battle bit wall, Yang Wanli was wearing the holy armor, looking majestic. His tiger-like eyebrows were slightly raised, and he said with great interest, "You are Lin Chen?" Lin Chen said with a playful smile, "Why, not as handsome as the legends say?" Chapter 1243. Ha ha! Yang Wanli laughed maniacally. "We'll only know if I'm handsome after we fight. I, Yang Wanli, only recognize the strong. Let me see if you're worthy of the sacred boundary's praise." Yang Wanli's shoulders trembled, and his holy power fist erupted. The 25 holy acupoints in his body glowed, and an azure dragon rushed out of them, stirring up the clouds in all directions. The holy power azure dragon was unleashed along with the fist, its might explosively increased as it charged towards Lin Chen. A full-powered dragon fist caused the entire plane to tremble as it struck towards Lin Chen. Seeing Lin Chen's casual attitude, many experts and geniuses from the 36 domains looked forward to the battle. What kind of strength did this legendary young man have? How would he take this attack? Most of them had only heard of Lin Chen's legend and had never seen him in person. Their curiosity towards this child could be said to be extremely strong. Although Yang Wanli didn't have a ranking, he was once ranked 230th on the genius rankings. After that, he had retired from the genius rankings for 100 years and obtained a primordial fist manual, the Dragon Fist. There were few who could match him in close combat, and he was almost invincible in close combat. He went all out right from the start. Obviously, he didn't underestimate Lin Chen. He's using his orange grade technique, the Azure Dragon Fist of the 7 Dragon Fists. What a domineering aura. How is he going to take this punch? I heard that Lin Chen could exchange blows with Long Yijing, who was on the genius roll. Wouldn't it be easy for him to defeat Yang Wanli? Let me guess. Lin Chen will take care of him in 50 moves. Who are you looking down on? Are you looking down on Brother Chen? 50 moves? If you ask me, I'll take at most 20 moves. Do you believe that Yang Wanli will be defeated? I'm betting all my money on Lin Chen winning. If he loses, I'll do a handstand. The next moment, everyone was dumbfounded. Just as Lin Chen was about to raise his hand, his expression suddenly changed. Bang! Rumble! The plane shook, and the Azure Dragon slammed into Lin Chen's body, shaking heaven and earth. Lin Chen was blasted 100 miles away by the punch. They fell straight into the leyline abyss of the battle plane. A Saint Realm old man in the Western Island who was sipping hot tea directly spat out the tea in the face of his old friend next to him. What? Many cultivators' mouths twitched. Lin Chen hadn't even been able to withstand a single blow, and he had been sent flying? Some of the professionally trained geniuses on the genius ranking couldn't help but laugh. Could it be a clone? Yang Wanli reacted quickly. His saint acupoints glowed brightly as his body was enveloped in holy energy. He immediately entered a defensive state. He had heard of Lin Chen's legend. He had a super heaven-defying cloning technique, so powerful that it could even deceive the genius rankings. However, no clones came to attack him. Cough, cough, cough. Lin Chen coughed lightly as he pushed away a piece of gravel. His eyes were filled with surprise. No clones? When Yang Wanli discovered that there was still only one Lin Chen, he seized the opportunity to take a step forward. He activated his body movement technique and flew into the sky like a dragon. He flashed and appeared in front of Lin Chen in a few breaths. Kaboom! Yang Wanli raised his hand and punched Lin Chen in the chest, sending him flying into the sky. Whoosh! Yang Wanli's body movement technique was superb. He was a close combat cultivator. He flashed into a ray of yellow light and attacked Lin Chen violently. His punches were swift and fierce, but he didn't forget to be vigilant of his surroundings. Bam! 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 Yang Wanli was like a raging storm, bombarding Lin Chen all the way. In this exchange, Lin Chen was actually being suppressed by him. He couldn't fight back at all? F***ck, I was wrong. I put all my money on him. F***ck. This kid's reputation is undeserved. F***ck. Many Sage Realm cultivators cursed. They had extraordinary experience. How could they not see that Lin Chen was being beaten up one-sidedly? Finally, Lin Chen used his body movement technique and dodged Yang Wanli's attack. He pulled out his sword as he opened up the distance between them. The 4 islands cultivators perked up again. It's coming, it's coming. Lin Chen had finally pulled out his sword. Legend had it that he had slaughtered more than a dozen sages. Could it be that today was an eye-opener? Rip. Lin Chen held the azure moon in his hand and slashed out a moonlight slash that illuminated heaven and earth. However, the moment the slash was unleashed, its power suddenly decreased, and its speed slowed down several times. It looked like it was several times weaker in an instant. F***ck. Can you do it? Are you suffering from kidney deficiency? Bam! Yang Wanli smashed his moon mirror Imperial God with one punch. He couldn't help but laugh. No way. The legendary Lin Chen is only capable of this? Yang Wanli stepped on a streak of dragon chi and kicked Lin Chen horizontally at an extremely fast speed. Lin Chen was knocked back again. Even some hidden powerful figures from the 7th rank families were dumbfounded. What was going on? This wasn't right. They had thought that Lin Chen's strength might not reach their expectations, but it shouldn't be that bad. Ha ha ha, what is called an embroidered pillow? What is called a golden exterior but a rotten interior? This Lin Chen is a perfect actor. It's so funny. I'm amused. Is this the legendary, the most handsome appearance gets the most vicious beating? Hey 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 Yang Wanli, he's still a kid. Don't let him go. Hit him in the face. On the central island, many Sage Realm geniuses on the genius ranking who hadn't fought yet laughed. East Island VIP seat. The handsome young man from Xinyan Palace sneered. That's it? Goddess, is this the most outstanding man in the world you said? The handsome young man looked at Bai Ruoyan. The 10 beautiful maids couldn't help but look at him. They had heard Bai Ruoyan mention this young man countless times. Was this really the case? They saw that Bai Ruoyan didn't hear them at all. The handsome young man stared at the light screen of the space plane and couldn't help but exclaim. Long time no see. I didn't expect Brother Lin Chen to look so handsome even when he's being beaten. Everyone laughed. At the summit of the mountain, Long Yijing and Xiao Jing both revealed puzzled expressions. They had met Lin Chen face to face. This kid wasn't that weak. Did something happen to this kid in the past few months, and he can't use his strength? Long Yijing was secretly delighted. In the battle plane, Lin Chen had just unsealed the Tai E space. Before he could use the power of the Saint Acupoint, it began to erupt. A surge of Saint power connected all of Lin Chen's Saint Acupoints, indirectly causing him to be unable to use his strength. F***ck, this is too funny. The Acupoints are going to explode at this juncture? Lin Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He mobilized all of his clones to focus on the Saint power surging in the Tai E space and rushed to the next Saint Acupoint. Forget it. Lin Chen, I don't know what you're playing at. You only have this much strength. I'm so disappointed. The wind and clouds changed suddenly. Yang Wanli mobilized the power of 4 odd crystals. Wind, cloud, thunder, and lightning gathered in his fist. It was as if he was holding 4 giant dragons. He punched Lin Chen. Boom. Boom. Suddenly, the entire plane shook violently. A terrifying explosion erupted from the center of the two of them. It was as if heaven and earth had been overturned, and the plane had collapsed. The momentum was so strong that it alarmed many experts. This was a battle plane that could withstand a late 4th Heaven True Saint's attack. Although Yang Wanli's fist technique was strong, its power was far from this level, right? Whoosh! Amidst the dust and smoke, a figure flew out like a meteor. He vomited blood and fainted. What surprised everyone was that the person was actually Yang Wanli. What's going on? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At this moment, many reclusive old monsters stood up. Their eyes were filled with doubt and shock as they stared at the 4th battle plane. Their expressions were as if they had seen a ghost. Chapter 1244. The arrogant Saint stage geniuses on the genius ranking were shocked and stunned. Yang Wanli was the one who was sent flying? Could it be that Lin Chen had used his true strength? Under everyone's watchful eyes, the energy wave dissipated. Yang Wanli fell to the ground unconscious. His body twitched, and cracks appeared on his saint armor. One move to determine the victor? Yang Wanli had actually lost. 1. A 9-colored ray of light shone brightly, and 10 Saint Acupoints shone brightly on Lin Chen's body. Crack, crack, crack. The sound of breaking through reverberated in the air. The 11th Saint Acupoint lit up on Lin Chen's body. Everyone was stunned. What? He broke through? However, before they could figure out what was going on, bang! From Lin Chen's body, another wave of Saint energy that could shake the entire realm erupted. It turned into a loud rumble, and the entire realm shook, just like before. Lin Chen's 12th Saint Acupoint exploded. Crazy! This world must have gone crazy. At that moment, all the true saints felt their scalps go numb. They finally realized the severity of the situation. On the western island, the reclusive old monster's mouth twitched. F***ck, this brat is actually exploding his acupoints. Exploding acupoints was a once-in-a-lifetime phenomenon for combat emperors when they broke through to the true saint realm. Lin Chun could actually explode his acupoints when he was breaking through to the second heaven true saint realm. What was even more terrifying was that Yang Wanli had been knocked unconscious by the energy wave and aura. Even someone as strong as Old Shin could not help but feel his mouth twitch as he stood in the air. This is King awesome. In the preliminary rounds of the monstrous geniuses list, what kind of strange results had not appeared before? There was an instant kill, there was an attribute counter, there was a sneak attack at the start of the match, and there was even a handsome man who was even more handsome than Lin Chun who used a honey trap to seduce a female genius to win. However, no one had ever used the energy wave of an acupoint explosion to defeat their opponent. Some of the stage geniuses instantly felt a chill run down their spines. This was too King terrifying. Exploding a person's acupoints could seriously injure them? This Lin Chun was definitely one of a kind. It could be said to be the most ridiculous way to win in the history of the reserve tournament. TSK. Bang. 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 Lin Chen's acupoints exploded like a hot knife through butter. His 16th acupoint exploded in an instant, leaving all the experts dumbfounded. The Divine Flame Palace youth, who had previously looked down on Lin Chen, was now gaping so wide his mouth could fit an egg. Every single time Lin Chen's acupoints exploded, it felt as though the heavens and earth were about to collapse. Even a third heaven true saint realm expert with 30 acupoints open felt his scalp go numb from the fear of death. The power of Lin Chen's exploding acupoints could be said to be a terrifying disaster. When he had reached the saint realm, the 9 acupoints he had detonated were enough to shake the 9 heavens. There was no need to mention the acupoint ceiling after reaching the first heaven true saint realm. How many powerful enemies did he kill when Tai sealed his acupoints? An elder of the primordial dragon tribe, the Dragon Crown Prince, and a criminal of the Dragon Penitentiary. Which one of them wasn't terrifyingly strong? Especially the hundreds of prisoners Lin Chun had killed in the Dragon Penitentiary. Every single one of them had been at least a 4th heaven true saint realm expert when they were alive. The huge amount of high-grade battle chi he had obtained had all been absorbed into his body, but it had been suppressed by Lin Chen's acupoint sealing technique. In the previous battle, when he had unsealed his acupoints, it had been like a flood of 10,000 volcanoes that had been suppressed for thousands of years had erupted all at once. The main reason for the explosive power was Lin Chen's doppelganger. Lin Chen's doppelganger had guided the explosive holy chi to break through his acupoint. The level 7 illusory rune could create 6 doppelgangers. Including the main body, it was equivalent to 7 Lin Chen's acupoints exploding. 7 Lin Chen's, 7 Tai emptiness. Including the Tai emptiness, each of them would have 20 acupoints. In total, they would have 140 acupoints. The power of a first heaven true saint realm acupoint was equivalent to 100 million dragon power points. When 140 first heaven true saint realm acupoints were gathered at a single point, it was equivalent to 14 billion dragon power points. This was equivalent to 14 billion dragon power points. Even without using any battle techniques, the explosive power was comparable to a 4th heaven true saint realm attack. Previously, Yang Wanli had been on guard against Lin Chen's doppelganger's sneak attack. Therefore, when his acupoints exploded, he had subconsciously activated his defensive battle technique. If it weren't for his second-grade saint armor and Yang Wanli's defensive battle technique, Yang Wanli's acupoint explosion wouldn't have just left him unconscious, purring. Pung, pung. Lin Chen broke through another 3 acupoints. Holy light shone brightly, and 18 acupoints appeared around Lin Chen's body. That heaven-defying aura was like the birth of a furious dragon as he charged forward once more. 20th Saint Acupoint, open for me. Pung! 9-colored holy chi collided, and an earth-shattering explosion erupted. Lin Chen's 20th Saint Acupoint exploded. Finally, after breaking through the 20th Saint Acupoint, Lin Chen's accumulation from the 10,000 Dragons Conference was finally exhausted. Hoo! Lin Chen let out a long breath. Within the battle plane, 20 hexagonal rays of light flashed around Lin Chen's body. He was extremely beautiful, and the 9-colored holy wheel hovered above his head. Beneath his feet was a 9-colored holy radiance. The 5 tribulations of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth circled around his body. Holy chi tornadoes whistled in front of him, and lightning flashed everywhere. The holy light of light and darkness circulated, and the light of the odd crystals sparkled like stars. Lin Chen's every move was like a god descending to the mortal world. His aura was extraordinary. Within the spatial screen, the tens of thousands of saints on the 4 islands were shocked. Their mouths trembled, and it was as though they had seen a miracle. 10 acupoints exploded in a row. Not only did he cause Yang Wanli to lose, but he had also broken the record of 9 acupoints exploding when he had become a true saint. Describing him as a genius was pale in comparison. Describing him as a monster was no longer enough to describe how heaven-defying he was. His holy power is powerful and domineering. It's not superficial at all. He perfectly controlled the power of 10 saint acupoints exploding in a row. It's too terrifying. Since ancient times, no one has tried to explode their acupoints continuously after becoming a true saint. This kid is not only the first, but he might be the last. We have to rope him in. Pass down the order immediately. Summon all the princesses in my holy nation. I will do everything I can. Even if I can't rope him in, I have to befriend him. All the forces and veteran experts present were in an uproar. Within the battle plane, Lin Chen's eyes revealed a domineering spirit that looked down on the world. With 20 saint acupoints, I wonder if my combat strength can shake a 4th heaven true saint or higher. At this moment, Lin Chen looked around and said in astonishment, Brother Wanli, where did you go? I just exploded my acupoints a little, and you disappeared? There's a song that's really good. 10,000 miles of geniuses will never fall. The handsome Lin Chen is so flirtatious. I haven't even started flirting, and you're gone. Brother Wanli, why did you faint? Quick, I have a long kingwo here. The corners of the geniuses' mouths twitched. When they saw Lin Chen personally carrying Yang Wanli out of the battle plane, their hearts turned cold. More than half of the geniuses prayed in their hearts, Please don't draw this pervert in the next few rounds. Chapter 1245. What made the scalps of some of the reclusive old monsters go numb was Lin Chen's vitality. This brat was beaten up by Yang Wanli, but he's completely fine. His vitality is as strong as a desolate beast's. Even a 4th heaven true saint wouldn't dare to take so many punches from Yang Wanli without any defense. This brat has a lot of secrets on him. The expressions of the geniuses turned solemn. On the central island, Lin Chen had won, and he had even brought Yang Wanli out with him. After consuming the Long Kingwo, Yang Wanli regained his consciousness. When he realized that he had left the battlefield, he was shocked. I actually lost. I even fainted. As expected, Brother Lin Chen, your skills are better than mine. I was completely fooled by you. Yang Wanli smiled bitterly. He didn't blame Lin Chen for tricking him. In a real battle, one would use everything to win. If it had been a battle of life and death, Yang Wanli would have been the one to die. Yang Wanli was impatient and curious. He grabbed Lin Chen's arm and asked seriously, Brother Lin, you're truly a legendary expert. I couldn't even see any traces of your attack. May I ask what heaven-defying move Brother Lin used to defeat me? Please tell me. Yang Wanli's question made some of the geniuses facepalm. If I tell you that I lost because of his acupuncture points, won't you go crazy with anger? Lin Chen replied in a serious tone, speaking of which, I won by luck. I pretended to be weak until the end before I used my trump card, the invincible whirlwind dragon claw. I barely managed to hit you. Yang Wanli fell into deep thought. No wonder your strength was so terrifying. I can't blame you for losing. Everyone's lips twitched when they heard Yang Wanli's sigh. Several female geniuses looked at Lin Chen in surprise. What a good and kind young man. He even knows how to take care of other people's feelings. He's an honest kid. Class leader. A peerless figure smiled and landed beside Lin Chen. It was Han Yizhi. As expected of the class leader. You defeated your opponent faster than me. Han Yizhi's smile stupefied countless geniuses. Both men and women were captivated. Lin Chao pretended to be proud. Of course. I, your class president, can last or be fast. It's all up to me. While the two of them were chatting and laughing, an aged voice came from the void. Lin Chen, we, the daughters of the Nanlong family, have admired you for a long time. I wonder if we can have the honor of inviting you to the West Island. We'll definitely treat you with the highest standards. I've heard of Lin Chen's great name for a long time, and it's indeed a well-deserved reputation. Little friend's alchemy skills are superb. I wonder if you would consider becoming a guest elder in my Ninju sacred sect? Our Saint Pavilion has enough top-notch pill recipes. If you're interested, you can take the orange-grade pill refinement handprint. I've heard that Brother Lin Chen has always been extraordinary. Today you've broadened my horizons. Can you come to the North Island for a gathering? I'm the Supreme Elder of the Thousand Wheel Moon Sacred Pavilion, a 7th grade sect. The saintess of my pavilion is interested in discussing some techniques with you. Hey, little guy, I heard that you have a good relationship with our Qingqing. Do you want to come to the sword domain to have some fun? Which sword saint do you want to be apprenticed to? As long as you can name him, I'll take you to him. The voices that came from the void caused the hearts of the geniuses on the genius rankings to tremble. 7th grade, 7th grade, 7th grade again. Various powerful figures of the 7th grade families were personally recruiting Lin Chen. Even the mysterious and ancient sword domain had sent him an invitation. Although the geniuses were all from 6th grade sects, there was a huge gap between a 6th grade and a 7th grade. They had never seen a genius or a demon who could be recruited by so many 7th grade forces at the same time. Every member of a 7th grade family had a foundation comparable to a giant. They were the peak of the sacred boundary. Forces above the 7th grade wouldn't appear in the world. It was normal for a 4th Heaven True Saint to enter a 6th grade force. As for the 6th grade forces, a 4th Heaven True Saint could only be considered a low-level existence. Lin Chen clasped his hands together towards the voice transmission in the air and smiled. Everyone, I'm not a vulgar person. I have a free nature, and I don't want to join any sect for the time being. As soon as he said that, some of the geniuses wanted to rush up and beat Lin Chen up. What you're rejecting is an endless opportunity. It's fine. There's still plenty of time in the future. It's normal for a young hero to have a personality. Even if you don't join a sect, we can still be friends. The voice in the void was extremely gentle. It didn't sound like a lofty 7th grade giant at all. Lin Chen's treatment made everyone envious. Comparing oneself to others would only make one angry. A bunch of old foxes still trying to worm their way into being friends. No matter what, I won't join your forces. Lin Chen raised his eyebrows and brought Han Yizhi to the eastern island. Sister Ruoyan. When Lin Chen landed on the eastern island, a scorching aura swept over. Lin Chen walked leisurely in the void. His eyes narrowed, and his mental force erupted like a flash flood. Rumble. The handsome young man who tried to suppress him changed his expression slightly. This mental force? Lin Chen patted his shoulder and mocked, "Why? Is this the tolerance of the people from the Divine Flame Palace?" Boom, boom, boom. The handsome young man was enraged. The 9 solar flame saint wheels above his head emitted blazing flames as he tried to suppress Lin Chen. Han Yizhi stood beside Lin Chen without batting an eyelid. Oh? The strength of the monstrous geniuses list? Lin Chen was relaxed. He didn't seem to have any intention of fighting. Bai Ruoyan frowned slightly. A wisp of pure white sacred fire flashed past her beautiful eyes. Her anger was beginning to show. "Young Master Qingxiu, although I respect the Divine Flame Palace, it doesn't mean you can mess around." An immortal-like old man walked out of the void above the eastern island. He was the person in charge of the preliminaries, Elder Shun. No, Qingxiu wouldn't dare to be presumptuous. The handsome young man was uncertain. He cupped his fists at Elder Shun. Lin Chen smirked. "Qingxiu? You? Do you have kidney deficiency? Why are you suddenly scared?" "Huh." Young Master Qingxiu glared at him. Lin Chen said again, "If you're not convinced, come down and fight." Young Master Qingxiu said, "Do you want to die?" Lin Chen said, "At most, I'll give you a handicap of 1 hand." Young Master Qingxiu's mouth twitched. How dare a guy with 20 saint points who hasn't even reached the 3rd level of the saint realm be so arrogant? Lin Chen said again, "If you don't say anything, I'll give you a handicap of 2 hands. If you're still scared, I'll give you a handicap of 2 feet." The 10 beautiful maids of the Divine Flame Palace, who served Bai Ruoyan, were puzzled. A handicap of 2 hands and 2 feet? How were they going to fight? "You're going too far." Lin Chen said, "You're going too far? Your request is a little high. Then I won't even use my saint power. Are you still scared like this?" Bai Ruoyan burst into laughter. Han Yizhi covered her mouth to stifle her laughter. Young Master Qingxiu was angered by Lin Chen. He was a monstrous genius of the Divine Flame Palace. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't lose his composure like this. But facing Lin Chen, he couldn't stay calm at all. He had kissed the goddess of his dreams. And he even pulled her. F***ck. Chapter 1246. Regardless of whether it was the Divine Flame Palace or outside of it, it was extremely difficult to even meet Bai Ruoyan, let alone get intimate with her. Why did it have to be this kid? Young Master Qing Su roared angrily, "I hope you can pass the preliminaries. When I challenge you, don't be a coward." When a monster challenged a monster on the monster list, the challenger could not refuse. However, when a monster on the monster list challenged a candidate, the candidate had the right to refuse. Young Master Qing Su wished he could chop Lin Chen into pieces. Lin Chen smiled playfully. "As you wish." At this moment, Old Shin walked over. "Little guy," Old Shin's voice was unusually cordial, "do you want to join my boundary tower? Don't worry, you'll just be a guest in name. You'll still receive benefits and offerings. You can even stay away for 180 years if you don't have anything to do. Moreover, our boundary tower is a neutral party. We won't favor any faction's grievances. It's the most peaceful choice. What do you think?" Seeing that Old Shin's eyes were thirsty for talent, Lin Chen was a little wary. These old foxes had lived for countless years. If he fell into their trap, he might not be able to climb out. "Well, I'll think about it." Before he finished speaking, a fragrant wind blew, and another stunning beauty appeared out of thin air. She was surrounded by a faint illusion of crimson cherry blossoms. "Greetings, Old Shin." The beauty bowed slightly, neither servile nor overbearing. She then smiled sweetly at Lin Chen. "What do you think, young master? Let's cooperate." Before Fairy Scarlet finished speaking, Lin Chen flicked his finger, and a fragment of the illusory enchantment stone shot toward the beauty. She caught it with one hand, and her face could not hide her surprise. An exquisite storage ring floated in front of Lin Chen. Fairy Scarlet smiled and said, "This is the promised reward. Thank you for helping me solve a problem. Lin Chen took the storage ring and used his spiritual consciousness to penetrate it. A colorful spiritual plant of providence floated in the storage ring. If there are more opportunities like this in the future, remember to look for me. Lin Chen chuckled. This was a mid-grade spirit plant of destiny seed. Its value was immeasurable. Fairy Crimson's beautiful eyes turned. When she looked at Bai Ruoyan, she smiled faintly. Young master is truly fortunate. You even have a relationship with this fairy from Divine Flame Palace. Suddenly, Bai Ruoyan pulled on Lin Chen's arm, her smile unmatched in her generation. Senior, I still have something to discuss with little brother Lin Chen. Let's end our conversation here. After saying that, Bai Ruoyan pulled Lin Chen and rode the wind. Young Master Qing Su wanted to stop them but was intimidated by Bai Ruoyan's cold gaze. Old Shen looked in the direction where the two of them left and shook his head in amazement. This Lin Chen brat is truly a strange person. Women of the Divine Flame Palace usually have perfect temperament. How could they be so resolutely in love with one person, East Island, inside a gorgeous palace? This was the resting area prepared by the Boundary Tower for VIPs. In a flowery pavilion full of vitality, Lin Chen and Bai Ruoyan were alone after not seeing each other for a long time. Bai Ruoyan held Lin Chen's palm tightly and asked him about his experiences after leaving the 9 provinces. From the soul-stirring battle with the fake gods, to landing in the sacred boundary, to encountering the genius list for the first time, to Tsongyu's secret realm, the 4-way conference, meeting everyone from Class 66, being chased by a group of sages, and even the fact that Lin Chen obtained the war god bracers from Bai Ruoyan. Although Bai Ruoyan had been inquiring about Lin Chen and knew about his experiences after coming to the sacred boundary, it was 2 different things to hear it from the mouth of the young man she loved. You should really thank Ice Heart Palace. They helped you a lot. Fortunately, you didn't encounter any danger. Why are you still so stubborn after entering the Sage King's tomb? Bai Ruoyan stroked the young man's cheek and frowned. The two of them stayed alone for an unknown amount of time. Suddenly, Bai Ruoyan took out an ancient scroll from her storage ring and handed it to Lin Chen. Little brother Lin Chen, I made an exception this time. I don't know when we'll meet again. Take this, it can help you a lot. Lin Chen took it curiously. When he opened the ancient scroll with his saint power, a series of ancient words appeared in his mind. 9-layer burning sky palm, a fire-type orange tear palm technique. The palm technique is divided into 9 layers, and the 9 layers combine into one. Its power is comparable to an intermediate orange tear battle skill. 9-layer combining into one requires at least 30 saint points to try. Lin Chen was shocked. This technique was terrifyingly powerful. Intermediate orange tear and elementary orange tear seemed to be only 1 level apart, but its value and power were several times higher. Throughout the time Lin Chen spent roaming the Holy World, he had never seen a mid-orange tear cultivation technique. Only a small number of powerhouses possessed orange tear low-level cultivation methods. Intermediate orange tear techniques were practically a legendary existence. Even in rank 6 sects, there were only a handful of intermediate orange ranked cultivation technique. Sister Ruoyan, where did you get this technique? Lin Chen was touched. Bai Ruoyan smiled and answered, it belongs to the mythical Flame Palace. But isn't this supposed to be a technique for you to cultivate? If it goes missing, won't they blame you? Bai Ruoyan placed his hand on her cheek. These questions are not worth mentioning. Nothing in this world is more important than a single strand of your hair. Lin Chen's heart was moved. Who could resist a fairy's words of love? Lin Chen hugged the beauty tightly in his arms. The beautiful fairy's delicate body trembled slightly, and she suddenly giggled in his arms. Little brother Lin Chen, your body isn't behaving. Lin Chen said in all seriousness, Sister Ruoyan, let's continue what we were interrupted when we were on the holy fire level. I don't want to tolerate it any more. Bai Ruoyan raised her head, her beautiful eyes gazing at him with an apologetic look. Little brother Lin Chen, my heart technique isn't complete. If I lose my virginity, my heart technique realm will be lost. Lin Chen felt like he was struck by lightning. He was so angry that his mouth trembled. What was this? Again? Why was it this plot again? Bai Ruoyan's beautiful blue eyes moved as she looked at him seriously. Suddenly, her face flushed red, as if she was a fairy who had fallen in love. She said softly, "If little brother Lin Chen wants it, I can give up everything. It's okay even if I want it now." "No." Lin Chen's breathing trembled slightly, and he rejected it as if his heart was being cut by a knife. Embracing a fairy, an arrow on the bow. At this moment, it was too difficult to say the word no. From the mythical Flame Palace's attitude, Lin Chen could roughly guess how highly the mythical Flame Palace valued Sister Ruoyan. If there was a problem with her heart technique, it might directly affect her foundation and even her safety. "It's been hard on second brother. I've let you down. You haven't even had sex since the beginning." Lin Chen wanted to cry but had no tears. He let out a long, tragic sigh from the bottom of his heart that belonged only to Lin Shuai. "I want it. What's the use of this iron staff?" In the secret chamber, consuming 680,000 points of high-level ability essence. Beginning to integrate 9-level burning sky palm cultivation memory. Specifying a target to integrate 9-level burning sky palm cultivation skill. Consumption doubled, consuming 1,220,000 points of high-level ability essence. Lin Chen consumed 1,900,000 points of ability essence in one go. He and Bai Ruoyan integrated 9-level burning sky palm cultivation memory at the same time. If the mythical Flame Palace found out that she had given him such an important ability, she would inevitably be held accountable or punished no matter how high her status was. Although Bai Ruoyan did not care, Lin Chen could not do that. He could not allow Sister Ruoyan to be wronged. Chapter 1247. So mystical, after a long period of seclusion, Bai Ruoyan woke up. Her beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment. The cultivation method of the 9-layer Burning Heavens palm, its usage, secrets, techniques, and key points were all perfectly engraved into her memory. It was as if she had practiced it countless times since she was born. She could perfectly perform this cultivation technique. Little brother Lin Chen, you can actually help others cultivate this cultivation technique so quickly and efficiently. This is simply a godlike method. Bai Ruoyan exclaimed. If she cultivated normally, even if she had the eternal sacred fire, she would still need about a year to complete the beginner level of this cultivation technique. With this, Lin Chen had directly saved her several years or even 10 years of cultivation time. Even more astonished was Lin Chen. The speed at which Sister Ruoyan integrated the cultivation memories of the 9-layer Burning Heavens palm was actually faster than all of his clones combined. She had completely integrated it in 2 days. Lin Chen couldn't help but sigh at the power of the eternal sacred fire. Lin Chen smiled and said, "Fortunately, this isn't without a price. The amount of cultivation memories I can help others is very limited. There's a price to pay." "Then are you all right?" Bai Ruoyan was seriously worried. Her slender fingers unbuttoned his clothes. The more extraordinary something was, the greater the price one had to pay. The peerless beauty quickly sized up Lin Chen's entire body, afraid that something bad would happen to him. "Ah, there really is something wrong. Heavens, how did you get injured like this? It's all swollen. Don't do this again. Big sister will help you." The beautiful smile of the celestial fairy was like a crimson sunset. That peerless charm gradually became stronger. She lightly opened her white teeth. Lin Chen was greatly embarrassed. The elegant celestial fairy's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. Her dimples rose as she gradually became anxious. Lin Chen went from being pleasantly surprised to being at ease, to being like a living celestial, to slightly sucking in cold air. The ups and downs of life. On the central island. Today was the day of the second round of drawing lot. Lin Chen arrived empty-handed. His silver robe was adorned with starlight, and it was engraved with the character Churn, left behind by a beautiful woman. He wore a feathered crown on his head, and he looked fresh and refined. His eyebrows were like swords, and his nose was tall and straight. He was handsome and elegant, and he had the charm of an immortal young master traveling through the mortal world. Although I don't like this guy, why do I feel that his temperament is becoming more and more handsome? So annoying. I really want to hit him. I wonder which unlucky genius will draw him this time. Due to the explosion of his acupoints last time, I wasn't able to see his true strength. What a pity. By the way, what's going on with Yang Wanli going home to farm? I heard that after he found out that Lin Chen had exploded his acupoints and lost. He even said that he would practice some T-fist art. He threw away his radiant sacred armor and left. While the geniuses were talking, the list in the sky started rolling again. The clothes that Sister Ruoyan sewed for me are so comfortable. While Lin Chen was sighing, Han Yizhi smiled and tugged at the corner of his clothes. Class monitor, the name list is out. You're in the first batch again. Lin Chen saw his opponent. Out of the top 1,000 on the Genius leaderboard, Lin Chen, against Xiao Zhoutian, the 51st on the Genius leaderboard. When they saw Lin Chen's opponent, many of the Sage Stage experts were excited. This was going to be interesting. Xiao Zhoutian was in the top 100 on the Genius leaderboard. He did not need a substitute token to participate in the substitute competition, let alone the 51st place. He was a true seeded contestant. Almost many forces were optimistic that Xiao Zhoutian would break through the encirclement and become the new generation of monsters on the Genius leaderboard. Lin Chen stepped into the third spatial gate. Xiao Zhoutian, who was in a green robe, had been waiting for Lin Chen. He held a white paper fan in his hand and was confident that he could control the situation. You're Lin Chen? I'm looking forward to seeing you show me more strength than before. Otherwise, I'll be very disappointed. I'm not Yang Wanli. Ordinary tricks won't be able to defeat me. After saying that, Xiao Zhoutian closed his fan and shook his shoulders. Rumble! A terrifying saint aura burst out from his 29 saint acupoints, turning into yin-yang saint brilliance that was thousands of feet long. One black and one white, circled around Xiao Zhoutian's body, and his eyes turned into one black and one white. It was extremely mysterious. Other than that, he had also refined 5 odd crystals. 3 yin attribute and 2 yang attribute. 29 sage points. Has this kid also reached this realm? He's indeed terrifying. Some of the veteran sages from the rank 5 and rank 6 families were solemn. Those who could be on the Genius leaderboard were below the age of 2000. When a sage stage cultivator cultivated, they would sometimes go into seclusion for a few decades. To a sage stage genius, 2,000 years was like a mortal's 20 years. To be able to open 29 sage points at such a young age, he was undoubtedly a true monster. Looking at the current Genius leaderboard, Long Yijing, Xiao Jing, and the other lower-ranked monsters only had 30 sage points. The current top 30 on the Genius leaderboard also had 30 sage points. Xiao Zhoutian's figure flashed and instantly appeared above Lin Chen's head. Universe Creation Diagram. He activated the yin-yang dual odd crystals and took out an ancient black and white diagram that rapidly expanded above Lin Chen's head. Yin-yang sacred power, suppress. The diagram was engraved with ancient Buddhas, ancient demon kings, and yin-yang twins. It washed over the surging yin-yang sacred power and shone down thousands of yin-yang sacred light. Finally, it condensed into a sacred light that pierced through heaven and earth and shone in Lin Chen's direction. That's it? Lin Chen smiled faintly, and two pure spiritual power blazing dragons rose from the top of his head. Roar! Roar! The two spiritual burning dragons roared, and their roars were like rolling sonic booms that instantly shattered the yin-yang sacred light. The second-grade sacred artifact, the universal fortune diagram, burst into flames with a sizzling sound. As the owner of the sacred artifact, Xiao Zhoutian was the first to be affected. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his spiritual power withered. What? Xiao Zhoutian was even more shocked. He realized that the flames burning on the universe creation diagram were actually formed by pure spiritual power and couldn't be extinguished at all unless he used his spiritual power to extinguish it. However, his spiritual power had only just advanced to the saint realm. The moment the second-grade sacred artifact universe creation diagram was burned until it lost its spirituality, Lin Chen injected all his sacred points into the fire-type odd crystal. Lin Chen raised his hand and slammed it into the sky. Boom! Waves of fire surged, and a scorching aura burst out from Lin Chen's 5 fingers. It was as if even holy qi could be burned into nothingness. Endless sacred flames overturned heaven and earth. The giant burning palm carried 6 billion dragon power that could shake the continent. It was ready to be unleashed, and its power and holy qi erupted in an instant. It blasted toward Xiao Zhoutian. Boom! Boom! The universe creation diagram exploded in an instant, and Xiao Zhoutian was sent flying into the sky with blood splattering everywhere. The universe creation diagram turned into a tribute light balls that scattered all over the sky and shattered on the ground. Hiss! All the geniuses gasped. One move, one palm. The seeded genius candidate for the monster rankings was defeated. That's F** King, ridiculously strong. This was comparable to the strength of the top 10 geniuses on the monster rankings. Young Master Qing Su stared intently at the battle screen. That's the Divine Flame Palace's sky-burning palm? Young Master Qing Su glanced at Bai Ruoyan unwillingly. Her beautiful eyes were glistening, and even if she was just watching, her posture was still elegant. Young Master Qing Su could roughly guess that Lin Chen's sky-burning palm was related to Bai Ruoyan. However, what he couldn't accept was how he could learn it in such a short period of time. Moreover, the range used was even more perfect than his, and the timing and attack were almost flawless. It was as if he had practiced this technique thousands of times. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.